with the ruck, I think, in the area where I think Riley O'Brien's got a huge opportunity tonight to really take it, not only just around the ground but in this craft, but actually put it to advantage, because we know how sensational the Port Adelaide midfield are.
Absolutely, Jam. And we saw last week against Collingwood, Port Adelaide sub-liced it off. We weren't sure whether there was an injury or it was just the fact that he wasn't going all that well, but it did really hurt Port Adelaide in the last quarter against the Pies, where Collingwood's midfield started to get on top and eventually won the game. So that's a massive matchup this evening with that Vicentini. But the other thing about O'Brien is, which I think is sort of lost when you talk about him, his running capacity is phenomenal. He's sort of a low 6-minute 2K, so I would imagine the message to him is just to keep Vicentini running all night.
Yeah, and last week what I liked about Riley's game was he was taking marks defensively too, which is when he does that around the ground, you know he's sort of up and about. And I thought he did well last week against Max Gawn.
I think the other thing as well, so from Adelaide's perspective, no Rochelle as well, so he's probably one you forget about. So he's a massive out. Obviously he missed last week, but he's another player at Adelaide which clearly isn't playing the showdown tonight, which is a huge out.
And Rankin's the one, massive, isn't he? Yeah. Like, he's the one. When I saw him limp off last week, I was like, oh no. Like, so I haven't spoken to anyone from the club, but they feel there's probably a 2 to 4 week hamstring too, and he's done it before, so he knows what he's up against.
And one other player which I've been quite, I guess, vocal about is Lockie Murphy. I actually really rate him, and I think he's a much underrated player. I guess the negative of having those two players out is that he potentially gets a little bit more attention. McAdam, you know, a lot of weight on his shoulders tonight to have an impact ahead of the ball as well.
And surprised to read this is his first showdown. Yeah. Like, I didn't know. Maybe through injury, suspension and whatever, and form, he hasn't played in one. He's read about him and he's obviously watched closely, but this is his first one tonight too. And I just think he's got the ability. He's not as lightning and can't break away like a Rankin can, but he can offer that type of electric football.
Crossy the power making their way out onto the field. Did you get a glimpse at the banner?
I did. No, it was a letdown. There wasn't much there.
2 lines.
It's just Connor Rosie and an image of him in his 100th game. So celebrating that. And of course, on the other side, as is usual, we are Port Adelaide since 1870. I thought for sure there had to be something on that
little dig.
There was a little bit of war words in the build-up. We had Adam Kelly on SA Grandstand this morning, and he actually mentioned that it was frustrating from an Adelaide perspective that Port Adelaide are the one who have instigated it over the past couple of years. They're the ones who come out and use the word hate. Yeah. And Adelaide's the one with the more cheeky, subtle digs in response.
I think was it Ryan Burton this week too? Like, once again, he came out and just said, I hate that club, you know, like too. And Ollie Wines a couple of years ago or prior to, entitled at one particular point he came out and said. So.
Look, it's interesting too. That dialogue and the narrative, I don't actually understand what you achieve by saying that. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe they're trying to build a bit of spice. I don't think you need to do that to create a bit of spite and atmosphere.
For this game particularly too. Like, I thought, you know, Brandon Maynard into last week's game, Collingwood and Port Adelaide, when he came out and said what he said, and post-game, Craig McRae was really positive. He said, you know, we want people to be themselves and come out and say that, don't hold it back. But, you know, under Malcolm Blight, when I was playing, he always, you know, like, don't ever mouth off to opposition players, particularly if they're having a bad day, because you don't want to fire them up and get them going and get them back in the game. So we just sort of went about doing what we had to do.
Meanwhile, Dean Brogan, showdown medalist this morning, said he reckons the showdown's back to what it was. It's got a bit of that ferocity that it kind of lacked for a period of time, and the last few years have certainly had an intense nature to them, and they've been very close. We've had some incredible highlights, and who knows how tonight plays out. Port could end Adelaide's season. That's incentive enough for them if they're really that, you know, that hatred is really there.
Well, I was going to say the other thing as well is that Gold Coast have actually done Port Adelaide a favour. They beat Brisbane this afternoon, which if Port Adelaide win tonight, they go 2 games clear, I think, in second spot. So, you know, there's a huge amount riding on this for Port Adelaide, because obviously top 2, you get those 2 home finals. There's a massive leg up in terms of what potentially lies ahead for the Power.
Well, it's either here, isn't it, too, or possibly if Brisbane had a 1 and putting the pressure on, they go to Brisbane in round, you know, first week of the final. So big difference.
And Adelaide's season, you know, hanging by a thread as well. So there's obviously incentive for them as well.
Yeah.
In terms of the matchups, gents, I've mentioned it a little bit about the back line. For me, I mean, Port Adelaide are one of the best forward 50 teams. That they score a ton from their forward half chains. They love clearances in the forward half as well, and they just lock it in and force repeat entries. And Adelaide now, without Nick Murray, albeit with Mark Keane in as the replacement, feel a little bit vulnerable tonight.
I don't know. I would have said yes again. I want to see how Mark Keane sort of holds his own. I think, Jordan Butts will sort of play the role that he will. So how will Port Adelaide line up? Finlayson, will he go into the middle more and do a bit more ruck? And
possibly,
then does Vicentini go forward? I mean, we know that they continually go to Charlie Dixon majority of the time, and Todd Marshall is not quite the form in the early part of the year or late last year as to where he's at. Now, who knows? He could turn it on again. So I'm intrigued to see how that is all going to play out. Max Michael-Annie coming back into the side. Will he go tall or small? Who's going to pick up Sam Powell-Pepper? He's going to be a bull tonight, isn't he, too? This is his sort of game and the stage for him to play and just hit it. And look, he was great last week with 2 goals.
And a couple of things as well from Port Adelaide's perspective is we talked about Dixon. He looks like he's playing on one leg. He doesn't look 100% fit, and there's been, again, a bit of narrative around his overall fitness. And the other thing as well, and you mentioned their forward half chains, Aaron, Port Adelaide are ranked number 1 in the competition in terms of forward half or time in forward half. They do base their game around trying to lock the ball in their front half. So if they can get that game going and Adelaide aren't able to break free and get entries inside forward 50, then that will play into Port Adelaide's favour. But ultimately, as you said, Port Adelaide's forward line, if they can get that going and functioning with the likes of Dixon, Finlayson and Marshall and the smalls that they've got at ground level with Powell-Pepper, I think Burn Jones back actually, he's a massive inclusion for Port Adelaide as well. Then, potentially then that could, be a bit of the game breaker.
The other one too, Jed McEntee, he's gone under the radar a bit for me too. Like, this is his 16th game. He's kicked 12 goal 2. So he's just doing his craft and he's contributing in the role that he's playing. So, they have got Darcy Byrne-Jones clearly going to play up forward too. Sam Powell-Pepper is going to be there. You would think at some point maybe Butters is going to go through there.
Yeah.
They've still got the ability. They just get it in and bring it to ground, and then these smaller players with their speed to be able to get the result they're after.
And I think also too, even when you're looking at the context of the game, and obviously I'm a little bit biased being a midfielder, but games, won and lost, and there's obviously a lot of talk around games of won and lost in the midfield. I really do like the balance of Port Adelaide's midfield. We've got Boat, 3-time showdown medalist, former captain of the club, 300 and whatever games. He's now starting as sub, and it's the next generation of Butters and Rosie and Horn Francis, which are really and have carried the workload. And they, in terms of what their midfield look like, the dynamic of the Port Adelaide midfield, they've got a really good mix of speed and their ability to close opposition, time and space to cause turnovers. They're really well balanced.
And the counter to that, Jamo, is the Crows are running Laird, Crouch and Dawson, and historically they haven't really wanted to do that because Laird and Crouch at times can be a similar type of player. Can you see it working tonight?
Yeah, well, you would hope, I guess, in terms of, Laird's got the ability to get in under and win the football, but he can use the football. He goes at 70 or 80% with his disposal. The issue on the knock-on with Matty Crouch has been he has no problem getting hold of the football. He just doesn't cover the ground, and his kicking has been poor, and then his defensive work has been poor. So that's why he's been out of the side for a period of time. He's a best and fairest winner. He can play at this level, and he just went straight back in last week into that up against Melbourne and did exceptionally well. I think the area that I have the greatest concern, and again, it's how much you put on it, like this contested football, and tonight, Port Adelaide are so good in that area. So last week, Adelaide against Melbourne, -21. Collingwood, Port Adelaide, they were +13. Port Adelaide were against Collingwood. It's the uncontested +17. Now, having a look at all the metrics, there's still, in terms of the age difference, well, the age is the same, but the experience, Port Adelaide still have another year on of football. There's a difference there of 16 to 18 games. So it's another...
Which is significant.
It is, isn't it? But everything else, average points for 94.2, 94.6 in favour of Adelaide against 83.3, 82.8. So you almost split that. Centre clearance, 12-13. This is for the year. And the stoppages, 27 Adelaide, 26 Port. So I think across the season, they both go okay. This is where it gets back to what Josh is saying too around, I guess, Vicentini coming into the side. Riley O'Brien can really stamp his authority on this game, hit it to the right position to give Adelaide the advantage, so the contested stuff either evens out or gets to Adelaide's favour, and then the uncontested, that's where I think Adelaide can potentially get on top. Port Adelaide like to transition across the back half, so that's where their numbers get up. Adelaide go forward now, so there's nothing in them, and that's why I feel a little more comfortable after seeing the ins again tonight. As to, I thought, gee, we're going to get a belting here tonight. Port Adelaide are going to really take it, and they still might, but I just feel comfortable now in terms of where the game is at. that the ins that Adelaide have brought in, I don't sort of feel too bad. So I think it'll be tight.
Yeah.
So Riley O'Brien, his hit out to advantage percentage is 29. So he's actually not in the top 20 ruckman for that, but he's the best ruckman in the league in terms of winning hit outs.
But Vicentini would be not in the top 80, again, you bring it back to what it is. So I understand what you're saying. You're up against who you're up against. And then you got Riley Thilthorpe will come in and actually do some further work, and Finlayson as well. So I think the second string stuff is going to be just as important as the mainstream. Just getting your hands on it. And we know it's going to be hot early too. How do Adelaide use the football to Taylor Walker and Darcy Fogarty? Don't just kick it in long and just bomb it on their head, which will allow Aliir to come over the top and do what they do so well. Hit the lead up, use it well, go for the easier option, not the harder option. Charlie Dixon's just a focal point up top. Todd Marshall steps up and he has a night out. Well, then Adelaide will be in trouble.
Well, actually, one other thing I've also written down in doing a little bit of homework for tonight's game is kicking accuracy and the ability to convert. We saw Port Adelaide last week butcher the ball in front of goals, which really did hurt them on the scoreboard and ultimately lost the game against Collingwood. And fair to say, Adelaide's kicking accuracy hasn't been all that outstanding either. So, you talk about showdowns and how they play out. It's going to be tight and tough. There's going to be momentum swings throughout the course of the game, and it's those that can remain composed under pressure. But ultimately, when you get those shots on goal, you've got to convert, because if you don't, you can get burned.
Well, I think after last week's game, I was really frustrated. 1 goal, 9 set shots, Adelaide. Really, I've kept the tally for the year. Adelaide have kicked 250 goals, 203 behinds. So still in favour, but Port Adelaide kicked 244 goals, but 231 behind. So they don't have a problem getting the footy into their forward 50. Both sides struggling being so clean. So again, it just comes back. It's just such on the day.
Yeah.
Great to have the thoughts of Premiership Cry Rod Jamieson, 3-time showdown medalist Josh Franco, the 5th member of our commentary team.
And Rod Jamieson.
And Rod Jamieson?
No, the 3-time showdown medalist.
Together, 3-time showdown medalist. 18 games between you. The 5th member of our team down on the boundary is Liz Walsh this evening. Good evening, Liz.
Thanks, Aaron, and hello from Boundary Side, where there's an electric atmosphere for the event that let's all call the Live Showdown. Live 54. I've been waiting all day to say that. Sorry. There's a huge crowd building behind me. We've got perfect conditions, no breeze. It is chilly. It's 12 degrees. We've just seen Port Adelaide win the toss. They'll be kicking to the northern scoreboard end of Adelaide Oval. I'll quickly look to the benches for you. For Adelaide, Lockie Murphy, Riley Philthorpe, Jake Saligo, Luke Nankervis start on the bench. Rory Sloane is the Crows' tactical sub, while for Port, Butters, Williams, Drew and Evans are starting on the bench, and Travis Boak is the Powers' tactical sub.
And the angry Irishman has gone to Charlie Dixon.
The Battle of South Australia writes another chapter. Showdown 54 on Grandstand AFL to kick things off. Here's Neil Cross.
So it'll be Riley O'Brien to go against Dante Vicentini in the opening bounce, and it's come down the Crows' way. And Wines just circling around the back, takes the ball and taken down in a tackle straight away by Rory Laird. So we'll go again, just slightly to the eastern end of the square and slightly to the River Torrens end of the square.
Tapped in front of Horn Francis. Matt Crouch runs him down. Another ball up to come just outside the centre circle. And holding the ball is paid. Free kick to go to Adelaide. Matt Crouch heads straight into the 50 for the Crows. A pack awaits. Walker gets a jump out at Aliir with the fist, then claims it and is paid the mark. The fist bubbles straight up and down. Crows fans aren't happy, but Aliir has a possession in the defensive 50 for the Power.
And he's got the job on Walker tonight. Mackenzie's gone to Fogarty.
So Aliir comes out and Charlie Dixon ahead of centre wing, so he's up the ground, takes the mark, the kick at a 45-degree angle out to the broadcast side. So Dixon between centre wing and half back for the Power. Down the line he goes with a kick. And Vicentini was the target. Offhand straight to Rosie, gives it to Wines, taken high. Shook off the tackle anyway, gave it to Vicentini with a forward hand pass. Wobbly kick inside 50. Burn Jones got it. Flipped out a hand pass. No success in terms of getting it to one of his own. Adelaide picks it up. Dawson clears the area.
Skied ball. Vicentini back with a flight, dropped it. Wines was waiting at the back with the assist. Got it to Dixon. Poor kick inside 50. Finds Miller for the Crows, right back pocket.
Just feel the intensity of the game already, Jamo. The crowd's involved. It's a hot footy.
Miller switches through Worrell, and now Smith in front of the scoreboard. The hill packed in this sold-out showdown. Smith booms it out to the eastern side. Pack just forward of the logo, juggling with one arm. Houston reels it in. up against Dawson. Port Adelaide can go back inside 50.
A couple of strong contested marks, Port Adelaide. Houston there and Big Charlie down on the wing.
Gets a nice run at it, loads up with the kick, 30 out. Marshall at the back, lost it in the pack. Bounced off his hands, slapped it out, trying to get it to a teammate. Only Laird was raiding, and he can clear it out to the broadcast wing.
Just look for green grass. It's heading towards the boundary line. If it goes over, there'll be appeals left, right and centre, and the umpire says throw it in.
Gee whiz.
Ray Chamberlain.
Yep.
Very fair to like.
That would be paid 9 out of 10 times, I reckon.
I would have thought.
Not that it should be, but
early in the showdown.
Yeah.
So Dante Vicentini, perhaps Dante's Inferno. It's a big ask for him in only his second game against O'Brien, and off the pack, it's called as a free kick to Dawson for Adelaide. Good record in showdowns, Dawson, with 2 showdown medals.
The skipper loads up to right half forward. Fogarty's his target, nearly claimed it against Mackenzie, fell into the footy, flicks a handball out to Laird. Now Keys, back to Jones, off a step, he skies it to the top of the goal square. Lockie Jones and Walker fly, bounces off both, at the back, Smith trying to bust his way through, but he can't, drops the footy, play continues. McAdam flicked one out, went through the hands of Keys. Bergman can clear for Port Adelaide. Out to right half back, a hit and hope. Bounced over the head of Finlayson. At the back is Worrell for Adelaide. Takes some time, nice composure, and chips it to Miller.
Miller at left half forward, just drops it in short for Crouch. 2 short, said the umpire. Crouch plays on, goes into the left forward pocket. Ball comes off Pedlar's hands down to the front. Burton was there for Port Adelaide. Now the umpire spotted a free kick for over the top, too high. It'll go to Bergman in the back pocket, and Port Adelaide will get some relief.
No score in the opening 4 minutes of Showdown 54 as Bergman exits to right half back. Wines left alone. Marks close to the boundary line and heads high and through centre wing. Vicentini caught behind. O'Brien floats across the front with the fist. Spilled to Pepper. Spun in the tackle, got a handball out. Tried to hit Rosie but turned it over. Dawson cut him off. Heads back. Over the top, Jones's handball, a hospital one, didn't favour Crouch. Wines at the back, caught in the tackle. It's coming back.
Possibly downfield, I think it was Aaron too. I don't know.
Yep, it was downfield for the high shot on Keane, or late shot on Keane.
Yeah.
So Crouch has handed the footy. Forward of centre wing called to play on. He'll head up towards the arc. Presenting Walker and Pedlar, brought to ground. Laird was front and square, hands it off to Smith, curled it to the top of the goal square, coming late McAdam, spoiled it away from Dersma, meant that Pedlar could sock it towards goal. It tumbles through 2 defenders, and Keane strikes. The first goal of the showdown goes the way of Adelaide, and it took 5 minutes to get there. Off the boot of Ben Keys. 1 straight 6, Port yet to score on Grandstand AFL.
And just having a look at the replay, Jam, I think Dersma was the player for Port Adelaide that made the fatal mistake of actually not going at the footy. The quick ball kicked inside forward 50 from, was it Brodie Smith, I think, just sort of just sat and waited for the ball, and McAdam attacked it beautifully. Brought it to ground, Pedlar, outstanding. Just had to attack the footy there, Dersma.
Yeah, uncharacteristic too. I think Lear also just had his hands on the football, went straight through and over the back, and dangerous deep in the opposition forward line. Both sides inside 50. 4 to Adelaide, Port Adelaide 3, and just the Adelaide scoring on that one occasion.
So it's interesting. Brodie Smith starting on the eastern wing out there as Port Adelaide will get the centre break. It comes to Rosie, look away, hand pass was good, and just unable to get rid of the ball quickly enough. Evans, he was brought down in a tackle, still play on. Butters has it for Port Adelaide, puts the ball inside. Burnt Jones had hands on it, couldn't take the mark. To ground it goes, and eventually it's going to be called for a ball up. Finlayson able to tackle Brodie Smith deep in defence now. Ball up, just 25 out.
O'Brien entangled with Finlayson, both missed the footy. Finlayson gathers on the bounce, handball was smothered. Drew tried to bulldoze through, bounced off towards Finlayson again, dropped the footy under pressure, and Laird lays a nice tackle. Basically where we started, we'll get another ball up. Over at the Docklands, Sydney lead Essendon by 6 points, time on in the first. Dixon wins it down this time. At the back, Schomburg charging through, handball out towards Worrell. and got it out to Laird, closer to the boundary line. Pepper overran it. Burne-Jones can swarm though. Curls it around the body to Dixon. Great spoil late from Keane on debut for the Crows. Spilled to Laird, spun a 360, got it out. Hinge to McElhenney. Now Nankervis around the body, out towards left half back. It works. Saligo marks up against Burton. Certainly didn't favour him, but he fought for the footy.
Keane was outstanding there.
Yeah, and
saved a certain goal.
Saligo, been in great form in the SNFL, warrants his spot in the team.
Down the line he goes with his kick. He had a glance inside, nothing there. Comes straight off the Port defenders. Alir, one of them, punched over the boundary line out on the eastern side.
Adelaide really clean crossy in that back half too, in that congested area, just the tight handball, just to get the footy out wide.
So O'Brien comes to the front, takes it away from Vicentini, forced though just a handball into space. Picked up by Houston for Port Adelaide. Gave it to Butters, slung in a tackle, lost it. And holding the ball.
Great tackle.
Schonberg, the man, inside 50 with his kick. McAdam on the lead up. 2 grabs, pulled it down. He's 40 out. And he's about 10, 15 metres in from the boundary in the left forward pocket.
And McAdam, already the 3 disposals, looking very lively ahead of the footy, just leading it, presenting strongly at the kicker, providing an option and a terrific connect inside forward 50.
And if he plays like that, he's going to be a handful for Trent McKenzie too, just in that regard. And then if the footy does come in loose, he just doesn't need a great deal of space to create something for Adelaide.
Just a couple of matches back from a suspension and injury that have wrecked his season. In he comes, and it's narrow, so he's hooked it a bit for the minor score. Adelaide move out to 1-1-7. Port Adelaide yet to score, and we've gone through 8 minutes in the opening term of showdown number 54.
And in that defence for Adelaide, Luke Nankervis debuted last week against Melbourne, did not look out of place, and doing the same again tonight.
Burton launches it up the spine into the square over the head of Dixon. Nankervis at the back charging onto it, as was Smith. Bounced through the logo and volleyed out of the air. Forward towards right half forward, off the boot of Rosie towards Marshall. Couldn't quite control it under pressure from Butts. And ends up escorting it over the boundary line in front of the Gavin Wanganeen stand.
We talk about Port Adelaide. Lycett not playing tonight. He has been managed. Already a little bit of a trend forming as the clearance count. At the moment, it's 4-1 in favour of the Crows.
It out goes the way of Vicentini this time at right half forward. Trickled towards Schomburg, brought down in a tackle. It trickles into Adelaide's 50. Bergman threw a handball over the top, trying to hit Pepper. Bit too heavy and over the boundary line.
So, blood rule, I think. Oh no, the umpire's just, I thought he had his hand up just to stop play for a moment, but instead he was pointing out the 2 ruckmen. So Dixon will go against O'Brien. And O'Brien had the better of it, but it only found Rosie at the front. Hand pass outside 50 to give it to Houston. Over the shoulder into the forward pocket he goes and high. Worrell slapped at it, missed it. Hinge picked it up at the back. Gave it to Miller by hand, and then Miller's outlet kick was good for Murphy. Running back with a flight of the ball outside 50 takes the mark. The lead up now. Inside at a slight angle taken by Fogarty. So he just holds things up and everybody migrates. He takes his time and then drops it wide. Here's Nankervis in the long sleeves.
Excellent on debut last week, Nankervis. 16 disposals, 7 intercepts.
Number 27 wearing Matthew Liptak's
Heads
number.
Down the line. Great launch from Burton. Floats across the pack and pulls it down. He's at left half back now for the Power. They're kicking to the northern end, yet to score. Heads up to the attacking edge. Dixon gets a fly at it. Couldn't bring it down. Laird, handball under pressure, turned it over. Straight to Drew. Spears it in the path of Evans. He's racing onto it against Hinge, who did very well to slap it back towards the arc. And soccer away from Bergman. Couldn't get it on the 3rd time. Picked up at the back by Wines. His handball in to Evans, who's bowled over by Worrell. And a boundary throw in to come. 45 out, right forward pocket for the Power.
Just that kick from Burton then. Normally long down the lines, a little bit more boundary. Very aggressive kick back into the corridor. Nearly came off for Port Adelaide.
Kicks Adelaide 24, 17 handballs. Port Adelaide 17 kicks 19 handballs. So just a bit under pressure. Get it to foot to cover the ground.
Adelaide by 7 points. Miller picks it up off the ruck contest. Gave it to Keane and the Irishman sends it high back towards centre wing. Fogarty brings it to the front. It's brilliantly roved by Butters. Puts Port Adelaide deep in attack again. There was almost a mark taken there by Pepper, but Adelaide will come away. No, Pepper put the pressure on. Didn't complete the tackle before the hand pass came out from Butts. He did oh so well. And now it's in the right back pocket for Adelaide. Murphy has it with the mark.
I'll tell you what, if you're a small Adelaide defender, I reckon Pal Pepper puts the fear of God in you.
He puts the fear of God in me up here.
Murphy with the long exit to right half back. Apaka waited, and off hands it rolls over the boundary line.
Adelaide really clean in the back half too, haven't they? Both by hand and foot coming out.
Yep.
Rory-led Connor Rosie with 6 touches each already in the opening 12 minutes. It's Adelaide leading 1-1-7. Port yet to score. Toss back in. O'Brien wins it down. Got it straight to Schomburg, who's immediately wrapped up by Farrell. Got boot to ball under pressure, but it's out on the full in front of the benches. And they're going to call boundary throw-in.
Yep.
There we are. Field of view here from above. It's a little bit indirect. So it must have bounced just inside the line. So it'll be tossed back in, true centre wing. Vicentini front position, tapped it straight to Drew. Great work by the second gamer. Under a bit of pressure, spun a 360, got a boot to ball, up and down. Crouch in the air, slapped it to Schomburg. Now Pedler races to 55. His kick is poor. Almost a shank that tumbles through the right forward pocket. And unfortunately for Thilthorpe, he couldn't make anything of it. Boundary throw in to come.
And that's the example I was just talking about. He could have just gone and given the handball to Dawson, who was a couple of yards in front, then stepped in front of the Port Adelaide defender to Shepherd, allowed him to have a shot on goal. Just pick the easier option.
And the clearance count currently 7-2 in favour of Adelaide. Bit of a concern for the Power.
So Alir goes in the ruck against Walker, who brought it down to the front and then towed it out of mid-air and away for the minus score. And Alir looking back up the ground and say, which of you ruckmen should have been there?
I reckon he played that really well, Alir. I think he was allowing Taylor Walker was going to take it, and he didn't have possession. He just allowed and just sat on him.
That points the margin, and they've gone out to the eastern side.
Quick exit for the Power. At the fall of the footy, Marshall trying to slap it forward and charging across. Miller puts his body on the line to force a boundary throw in. Hasn't been a great run of form for Taylor Walker in showdowns. He's had 1 goal in his last 4.
Oh, well, he's had a good opponent for most of them.
See if he can buck the trend tonight after signing a new contract that will see him into his 17th season. O'Brien wins it down. It's rolling towards the boundary line. And Schomburg can't get there in time. We'll try again. Closer to left half forward. Adelaide up 1-8. The Power yet to score.
I guess the positive with that matchup too, Taylor Walker is the one playing deep at the moment. Alir wouldn't like being back on the last line of defence.
Finlayson in the ruck for the Power at the moment. O'Brien wins it down straight to Dawson. Got a kick in the tackle from Drew. Burton put it down. Keys with the volley, hits Walker. A defensive lapse for the Power. And Burton's error is Tex's gain. Man on the mark, 30 out, slight angle to the left.
Well, I would say, Josh, that's a bit of luck too, because Keys, albeit Burton put it down, Keys just kicked it off the ground. He thought the pressure was there, and Alir got caught behind.
And it just highlights in this game, you just can't afford to make handling errors, particularly in a showdown when the pressure's on. And Burton on that occasion would love his time again, I would imagine. Just needed to take it cleanly, but as you said, luck's a fortune.
Taylor Walker in his 22nd showdown hits the scoreboard in the opening term. Adelaide on fire early. 2-2-14. The Power yet to score. 15 minutes in on Grandstand AFL. Liz Walsh is downstairs.
Yeah, Crows coach Matthew Nix, he's back to his former ways of coaching from the bench down here, and he's spending a lot of his time heads together with the runner Dan Jackson. I tell you what, they both just love that Tex kick.
Well, I tell you what, I know I'm banging on a little bit about it, but the clearance count, as I said, it's starting to get away from Port Adelaide. At the moment, it's 9-2. Also, too, when there's stoppages between the arcs, they're both holding 6 forwards, both Adelaide and Port Adelaide. They may need to bring a forward up to try to get more numbers around, because at the moment, the Adelaide Crows midfielders are rolling the dice to a degree. They've got confidence, they know where the ball's going to get hit, and they can hit it with speed, and at the moment, they're dominating in that aspect of this game.
And contested 24-19 in favour of Adelaide, and leading the tackle count 12-10.
Finlayson into the ruck against O'Brien. Doesn't contest that one. O'Brien knocks it down. Crouch clears it inside the forward line. Gee, that's a good mark by Williams going back.
He's coming back, I think, Rossi, to Crouch.
It is too. Well, there must have been a hold there behind the play as he kicked it. So Crouch with a free 50, kick, and that's, Pal Pepper was in there, and the umpire said that's okay. Now, Crouch takes his kick and goes long. And McAdam flew for it, and Burton knocked it away. And it came to Chase Jones, who gave it off to Saligo. Saligo by hand back inside, looked for Dawson, missed him. Picked up by Butters, off to Wines. Through the centre he goes. He looked for Marshall and missed him. Here's Crouch again, having a great opening quarter. Back he goes. Keane just drops the ball into the centre, misses Dawson. and only gets the chest of Horn Francis.
Had a runner on the outside in Finlayson. In the end, he'll pop it short. Just the required 15 to Burton. Wide of the centre circle. He'll head up to half forward. Wines presents. Another uncontested mark for the Power. Spots a target and drills it inside 50. He's looking for Dixon. Millerer floats across. Knew exactly where it was going. There's a holding free kick going Port Adelaide's way. And it's going to come back to Big Charlie.
Mark Keane, the offender. That's where the ball was going. Wayne Millerer read it really well, went across to help out. Unfortunately, the indiscretion happened just prior.
I reckon a good decision there from the umpire. Keane was all over him, retarded his ability to impact the contest, so good decision.
Man on the mark, 20 out. Only a slight angle for Charlie Dixon. Short approach, easy finish. Dixon's got the power on the board. It took 18 minutes to get there. They're one straight 6. Adelaide 2-2-14 in Showdown 54 on Grandstand AFL. Your experts, Rod Jamieson and Josh Franco.
And even in the context of the game, a really important goal there for Port Adelaide. They did look under siege, but the ball movement that I liked was they didn't just blaze away. They looked to change the angles, find a mark, didn't panic with the ball, just let the game unfold in front of them, hit the free target, then send it deep inside forward 50 to put the Adelaide defenders under pressure. And as we said, Keane felt it, drew the free kick, Dixon goal. Good settler for the Power.
What I like too, Rosie, Butters, Wine, 6'5'4". They're the ones getting hold of the football at the moment too. Ollie's been a bit quiet this year. Led with 6 after a week off. Crouch 5, and Wayne Miller across the half-back with 4.
O'Brien again gets a tap away from Vicentini. Picked up by Butters. Interesting hand pass back. It goes to Drew, high inside forward 50, and that time Keane just got in front of Dixon. Took a chest mark in the end, drops it wide. Nankervis just inside the defensive 50 for Adelaide, and then he drops it short to Millerer, close by the boundary line on this broadcast side.
Over the top, nice kick down the line to Smith. He'll handball over the top, and here come Adelaide, surging through Saligo into the forward pocket. O'Brien's gotten away from Vicentini and takes the uncontested mark.
That's exactly what you said, Josh. Run him around.
50 out, he'll centre his kick, floating across. Thilthorpe juggling, lost it on the third bite. Drew slapped it away. Houston at the back, drops it in the tackle. Charging through, Murphy left the footy behind. May have been clotheslined by Dersma. And the umpire sees it. Charging in, Hayden Gavin hands the footy to the Crows small forward at the top of the goal square. And all of Port Adelaide's good work is about to become undone. Oh, just great pressure and tackle. Wasn't by McAdam when the footy got over the back. Lockie Murphy had a couple of goes at it. Just the pressure that needed to be applied. Port went a little high. Thilthorpe lucky not to take the mark. He had 2 grabs at it. Goals in 6 of his last 7. Lockie Murphy's on the board again. Adelaide 3-2-20. Port 1 straight 6. Time on in the first on ABC Radio and Sport Digital. Jam, I really like McAdam's game. I know we mentioned him a couple of times throughout the course of this first quarter, but his ability, as we said earlier, just to charge and lead and hit up at the ball to provide an option for the kicker, but also equally just as important, his pressure at ground level was outstanding. He started the game superbly, and even just looking at the screen and the replay of that free kick, not a lot in it, but technically there. Good finish from Murphy. He actually got hit twice. He did. He got a little bit of a slap across the face from Dersma, and then Houston was over the shoulder as well. So back in the middle of the ground, Dawson coming off the bench to go in there against Horn Francis, and it'll be Thilthorpe to go against Vicentini this time. So Vicentini, he brought it down. Thilthorpe will take it away. Accelerates, hand passes to Dawson, gets out of one tackle inside 50 low. McAdam at the half volley it, looking for a handball target. It's Laird, his kick was smothered. Well done, deflected all the way over the boundary line, 20 or 30 metres away by Horn Francis. Boy, Port Adelaide, they needed that. Great smother too. And from Port Adelaide's perspective, a little bit worried about the Jones-McAdam matchup again. McAdam influential in that play. Jones just giving him far too much latitude. Can't go with him with leg speed. Adelaide by 14. Thilthorpe gets front position on Vicentini, slaps it over his head in the path of Dawson. Coming out to meet it was Houston, and now wrapped up in the tackle. Horn Francis brought to ground by Laird, who's having a pretty good opening term. That'll be tackle number 5. Tossed up quickly, 55 out. Dawson's at the back of the pack. Gave it to Hinge. Momentum against him, so he skies it up towards the top of the goal square. Walker's outnumbered. Leah fisted it straight to Schomburg, who's taken out of the air, and a spear tackle from Bergman holding the ball.
Just looking at the last couple of stoppages as well, Vicentini's just getting a bit manhandled, giving the Adelaide ruckman, and that occasion Thilthorpe, the ability to get first look at it. And as we said, at the moment, they're -9 in stoppages, Port Adelaide.
Bergman on the 45 exited to the broadcast wing. Palpepper up against it, brought it to ground, but is run down as he tries to break away. Free kick to Hinge, just forward of the logo.
Geez, they're hot at the moment, the Crows.
Yeah,
their pressure's outstanding.
Hinge goes long and direct, looking for... Well, they were looking for Walker, but gee, that was a good intercept mark taken by Dylan Williams. Up and strong mark.
And Port Adelaide just need to take a bit of a breath here. Try to keep the ball in possession by kick mark, as they did on that occasion to find Houston.
So it's dropped to Houston just inside his defensive 50. He's just taking his time now. Heads further out on to this broadcast side of the ground. Good kick.
Great.
Horne-Francis with the mark just near the interchange gates. Now he plays on. Down the line he goes, looking for Dixon and Keane, and Dixon got the ball, and Keane just took it away. Well, he knocked it out of Dixon's hands when he was just relaxing as he was about to take the second grab. Ball over the boundary line at left half forward for Port Adelaide. They'll get a throw in. Adelaide 3-2-20. Port Adelaide just the one straight goal from Dixon.
Looks really comfortable out there, Keane, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I know he gave that free kick away a bit earlier in this quarter, but looks very comfortable.
Toss back in. Thilthorpe slapped it into the face of Horne-Francis and came back to him. He flung it out to Laird. Not sure if a handball was there. Adelaide get the clearance though up to centre wing. Lockie Jones spun a full 720 nearly by McAdam. Got a handball out late. And Horne-Francis is brought down by Rory Laird. Mark Keane's role so important, not only just for this season, but maybe next for Adelaide. No Dude 8, no Murray long term. Redmond's off the table, off the ruck contest. Socket forward by Rosie for the power up to half forward. Coming out to meet at McEntee. Flung it back to Palpepper. Kicks from well out inside the square, but an absolute rocket to the top of the goal square and taken. High free kick going against Finlayson, who claimed the mark. And Jordan Butts will receive it in the defensive goal square as Adelaide escaped the danger.
Yep, it was taken in a one-arm headlock.
Definitely there, Crossy. Yeah.
Free kick was there out to the eastern side. He goes with a kick, knocked over the line as Chase Jones and Dersma competed for it. So it's outside defensive 50 for Adelaide. They've succeeded in getting it that far. And now in the ruck contest, we'll have Vicentini go against Thilthorpe, who looks like he's got a bit of confidence tonight. Gets in front this time, just palms it down. Schomburg came through, couldn't get it. Hinge just socketed it towards the boundary line. And he was escorted there by Palpepper and eventually over the line throw in.
Crossy, you talk about confidence. Where there's also confidence of the Crows midfielders, because they know where it's going. They've got confidence they're going to get first look at it. So they're actually hitting through the stoppage. At the moment, Port Adelaide are caught flat-footed and they're scrambling to get their hands on the ball.
Love the matchup too of Hinge on Sam Palpepper.
Yep. 20
touches between Laird, Dawson and Crouch. On the outer side, the ball looked like it was going to carry over from the ruck contest, but it's just stayed in thanks to the 100-gamer Connor Rosie, who heads into the scoreboard pocket. Launching was Nankervis. He took out his teammates at the back. Evans can swarm and snap from 30 for a goal. Port Adelaide get their second of the night. Margin back down to 8. Adelaide 3-2-20, Port Adelaide 2 straight 12, 25 minutes into the opening term. Liz Walsh downstairs.
Perhaps a little concern for Port down here that Jason Horne-Francis has come from the ground. He looks really a bit uncomfortable. He's got 2 trainers currently working on both of his calves. He's also looked like he took some Panadol as well, but I'm sure he'll be fine and back out there, but perhaps a concern.
Just the enthusiasm there of the Adelaide defenders. They all went at the footy. None of them impacted the contest or the football at all. Went straight over the back, and we were just talking about the smalls. Francis Evans probably in that discussion as well with how well he reads the footy.
And the two you mentioned, Rosie and Butters, having a real impact for Port Adelaide, both involved in that passage of play as well.
So 8-point margin. Adelaide retains it out of the middle. O'Brien follows up after Dixon, I think, got the tap out. Dixon on the ground as well. Keys picked it up for Adelaide off the Crouch inside forward 50. Alir pushes his man under the ball. Murphy picks it up to Fogarty, and then his hand pass partially smothered. Picked up by Houston. Wasn't a great disposal. It's outside defensive 50 though. Knocked on there by Drew. It comes to Alir over the head. Speculator hand pass only found Keys. Off to Nankervis. tried to go inside 50. Intercept mark taken by Williams for Port Adelaide.
And Dixon in the ruck on that centre bounce. Ken Hinkley's reaction to the clearance count, which is 14-5 Adelaide's favour.
Williams up the broadcast wing. Wide is Vicentini. Nankervis back with the flight, brought it down. Fights for the footy as well. If there's a word you'd use to describe this term, it's dog hungry at the moment. Dixon flung it out to Kane Farrell. He lost it in the tackle, and McAdam will walk it over. True centre wing in front of the benches. It is an 8-point lead to the Crows, and over at the Docklands, the Bombers are up by a point at the start of the second term over the Swans.
So Walker's come to the bench. Alir's gone to Darcy Fogarty, and Trent McKenzie's gone to Rolly Philthorpe.
And Miller is the 7th defender, if you like, for Adelaide. He's loose behind the ball. Ball goes to ground off the ruck contest. Sliding in was winds over the top, and Dawson's going to be pinged for holding the ball. So he's a left half forward. The ball was thrown back. He wasn't looking. Hit him in the head. Now he hand passes off. Farrell, we know he's a long kick. Belts it to the top of the square. Big contest. Adelaide with plenty of presence. They bring it down to the front. Oh, suddenly it got to Finlayson, and the snap from the top of the square. Harder to miss than get the goal, and he has missed. So the minus score for Port, 2-1-13, trailing Adelaide by 7 points, 3-2-20, well into time on opening quarter.
Quick and dangerous exit, though, a bit too hot with the footy, and at the back, Williams will centre. It spills through Rosie. Dixon tried to kick around the body, caught the shins of O'Brien, spills towards the arc. Marshall will soccer it forward, 30 out. Burn-Jones racing onto it. Pushed off it by Michael Annie, but Dersmer can gather and kick across the goal face. It'll tumble over the boundary line in the left forward pocket. Gee, it was a dangerous exit there for the Crows, who tried to rush it out to the eastern side. And in the end, it's a boundary throw-in inside Port Adelaide's attacking 50.
They've lifted the tempo, haven't they, Port, in the last couple of minutes?
And needed to.
So the ball comes back in. And both ruckmen down the front, and then just at the ground level, Drew just socketed it, and it was just to the right of the post for the minor score. 2-2-14 for Port Adelaide, plays 3-2-20 for Adelaide, and we are 28.5 down, nearly 29 minutes down.
Wayne Miller plays on from the defensive goal square. He'll head to a pack at right half back. O'Brien in front position, sandwiched in the contest, and off hands, it rolls over the boundary line.
And just to your point earlier, Crossy, Miller is actually an extra behind the ball because Port Adelaide, as we said, the clearance numbers were getting away from them. They've decided to put a forward into the stoppage to get a bit more density around the ball and try to hold up Adelaide's momentum at that source.
1 goal game, Crows lead. O'Brien wins it down straight to Rosie, breaks away from the pack and gives it off to his teammate or partner in crime, Butters. Kick through the pack. Spilled it to the back. Hinge caught in the tackle from Finlayson, but got a handball clear to Michael Annie. Here come the Crows on the counter. Miller are out to the eastern side. Marking is Dawson in the middle of a triangle. Over the top, in space is Philthorpe. He can go all alone at left half forward. Centres his kick magnificently and hits McAdam straight in front, 45 out.
Really smart kick too. I thought he was just going to go to the contest, and both Port Adelaide players, one had a defender, went with him. Came back inside on the outside of his right foot.
And Farrell, the decision to press the ball carry there, just got caught in no man's land. Couldn't get pressure on the ball. And as you said, a beautiful connect inside 50. McAdam all on his own. Mistake from Farrell.
Can Shane McAdam lay a late blow on Ken Hinkley's charges? A hop skip from the centre square. He'll kick on the paint of 50. Beautiful looking kick. Excellent finish. A late blow to the power. Elation for the Crows. A 2-goal advantage at the first change. 4-2-26. Port Adelaide 2-2-14. The goal scorers all individual. McAdam, Walker, Murphy, Keys, Dixon and Evans. It is Adelaide up by 12 points at quarter time. Wherever you're listening around the country and the globe on ABC Radio, Sport Digital and the ABC Listen app, this is Grandstand AFL.
What's the best thing in the world that's also on the ABC Listen app? The footy! This season, get your footy live and ad-free on the ABC Listen app. AFL, NRL, men's, women's. Whatever you fix, we've got you covered.
She's got it! Bye-bye! See you later!
Every goal, try, mark and tackle. Called by ABC Sports' expert commentary team. AFL and NRL, live and ad-free. Get it on the ABC Listen app. What's the best thing in the world that's also on the ABC Listen app? The footy! This season, get your footy live and ad-free on the ABC Listen app. AFL, NRL, men's, women's. Whatever you fix, we've got you covered.
She's got it. Bye-bye. See you later.
Every goal, try, mark and tackle. Called by ABC Sports' expert commentary team. AFL and NRL, live and ad-free. Get it on the ABC Listen app.
ABC Listen.
A Russian chef marches on Moscow. The Thai military attempts to hold on to power and prop up an...
Grandstand AFL.
Now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
Walker and Pendler brought to ground. Laird was front and square, hands it off to Smith, curled it to the top of the goal square, coming late McAdam, spoiled it away from Dersma, meant that Pendler could sock it towards goal. It tumbles through 2 defenders and 10 strikes. The first goal of the showdown goes the way of Adelaide. Down straight to Dawson. Got a kick in the tackle from Drew. Burton put it down. Keys with the volley, hits Walker. A defensive lapse for the Power. And Burton's error is Texas gain. Taylor Walker in his 22nd showdown hits the scoreboard in the opening term. Another uncontested mark for the Power. Spots a target and drills it inside 50. He's looking for Dixon. Miller floats across. Knew exactly where it was going. There's a holding free kick going Port Adelaide's way. And it's going to come back to Big Charlie. Man on the mark, 20 out. Only a slight angle for Charlie Dixon. Short approach, easy finish. Dixon's got the power on the board. Drew slapped it away. Houston at the back drops it in the tackle. Charging through Murphy, left the footy behind. May have been clotheslined by Dersma. And the umpire sees it. Goals in 6 of his last 7. Lockie Murphy's on the board again. Connor Rosie, who heads into the scoreboard pocket. Launching was Nankervis. He took out his teammates. At the back, Evans can swarm and snap from 30 for a goal.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
and now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
The Crows with the early advantage in showdown 54, but the Power is certainly within the hunt. 12 points the margin. 4-2-26 the Crows, the Power 2-2-14 as we head towards the second term. Over at the Docklands, scores are level in quarter 2 there between the Bombers and the Swans at 6-2-38 apiece. Aaron Bryans and Neil Cross with you to call the action, and your experts this evening. 18 showdowns between them. Rod Jamieson, Josh Franco, what do you make of that opening term?
3 showdown medals.
Well, I was actually really impressed with Adelaide. Obviously, we build the showdowns up. They're always going to be hot, tight, intense affairs, and the first quarter didn't disappoint. I think you mentioned it throughout that first quarter, Jamo. Adelaide's hands in tight were absolutely outstanding. Their pressure on the ball was outstanding as well. And they go into the quarter time break, +7 in tackles, the Crows. So that's where they've got the ascendancy. And the other area of concern for Port Adelaide, I was watching Josh Carr, the midfield coach at the Power, talking feverishly to his midfield crew, the clearance count and the hit-outs count. So at the moment, the Adelaide Footy Club are +10 in hit-outs and +6 in clearances. And what I'm seeing up here is the Adelaide midfield crew have a lot of confidence knowing that the ball's going to be hit. They're able to get onto it. They're able to win those clearances and get field position off the back of that. So at the moment, Visitini, he's a young lad. He hasn't played a lot of footy. He's got to do everything he possibly can to make it predictable to the mids and try to neutralise the influence of the ruckman, because at the moment it's not quite working.
Because otherwise Charlie Dixon's going to have to spend more time in the middle, or Finlayson's going to have to spend more time in the middle, and then that sort of exposes him in the forward line. So he has to fill a hole somewhere, and he's got to just run with Riley O'Brien. That's what you want. Compete, just follow him around at worst. But like Mark Keane's job on Charlie, this is as mobile Charlie Dixon I've seen him too. Like, we were concerned last week. He went down a couple of times with his knee heavily strapped, and he's working really high up the ground and working back. That's his right knee. But I thought I like that. Wayne Miller in the back half, hinge on Sam Pepper. I really did like Dylan Williams' role in the back half on that strong contested mark when Adelaide went forward. Matty Crouch has just picked up and winning a whole lot of the football. But as good as Adelaide are offensively too, their defensive work, just their tackling and to get at Port Adelaide, 21-14. And the marks inside 50 is the concern.
That's the concern. Absolutely it is. And we talk about pressure on the ball, and that's where Port Adelaide have been terrific for the majority of the season. They can't get that pressure on the ball. And when it's moving quickly, as a defender, you've played there down back, Jamo, and being caught on the last line. When the ball's moving quickly, it's really, really difficult to stop.
Yeah, 17-15 inside 50s in favour of Port. So they're getting it in there, but the defence of Adelaide are too good at the moment.
Yep.
So Mark Keane certainly holding his own on debut for Adelaide after 5 games against Collingwood. It's the Crows by 12. Second term underway in Showdown 54. Vicentini and O'Brien. O'Brien charges across the circle and cuts off Vicentini's jump. Both rucks miss the footy as a result. Spilled to Laird, who's wrapped up by Drew. Ball up. We'll try again. This time O'Brien wins it down. Crouch tried to reel it in, just lost it at the last moment. Vicentini with a kick up to half forward for the power. Slipped through Michael Annie's hands. He's fighting with Evans. Put an arm over the shoulder. Whistle stays away. Miller hands it to Smith. Now Dawson off a step. Skies it towards the square. Again, the two rucks entangled. Goes to ground. Butters gathers for the power. Hands it to Houston. And on the 45, a nice chip over the top to Evans. Too far out to score, attacking edge. He'll head inside the arc. 3-on-3, top of the goal square. Finlayson got hands to it. Spoiled late. Coming through a big heavy contact with Worrell and Marshall, who spun him down pretty heavily. Ball up to come, but we may have a quick look at that, the MRO, just for the impact and the way that Worrell landed.
Geez, Zach Butters just finds the footy, doesn't he, too?
Yeah, just keeps working.
Yeah.
Dixon goes against O'Brien, who wins another tap down. Miller gave a hand pass back to Crouch, who clears the area. Pack goes to ground. Walker tripped over and somehow is coming up with a free kick for a high shot. Vicentini giving it away. Mentioned Dante's Inferno. It's been pretty hot out there for Vicentini.
Port Adelaide got the numbers behind the footy here.
Down the line is a beautiful kick to a lead up for Fogarty.
Kick like that, it doesn't matter.
No, Walker, as we know, his power and his boot and his accuracy was very good. Meanwhile, Fogarty goes inside at 45 to find Crouch. So Matt Crouch plays on now. Chips it up. 25 from goal. Coming late and taking the mark, Dawson.
That was an outstanding kick, Matty Crouch. He looked like he was going to go long and deep to the square, and he pulled it right at the last moment. Saw Jordan Dawson in the contest just outnumber. Just an easy mark.
And this bloke Dawson he had a good first quarter, but just starting to impose himself on the game. Involved and influential in that passage of play.
Dawson 25 out, basically straight in front for his 9th disposal and his first goal, and he's hooked it badly for the minor score. Adelaide extend their lead though to 13 points, 2 minutes into the second term, down to Liz Walsh on the boundary.
I'm keeping a close eye on Crow Jake Saligo. He finished that first term on the bench chatting to the team doctor about his legs. He started this term on the bench again with his hamstrings being worked on by trainers.
The late in for Rory Sloane. Meanwhile, Dylan Williams exiting kick out of the 50. Bounce to Horn Francis. He's run down in the tackle, and Adelaide have regained possession. Walker curling it into the 50. Lockie Jones charging out with a double fist. Smacked it towards Butters. Sold Horn Francis into immediate danger. And he's gang tackled and held up at half forward. We'll get a ball up.
Probably fair to say Horn Francis, again, throughout the course of this season, has been a relatively slow starter. And again, not really influencing, just the 2 disposals currently.
Vicentini won it down to Horn Francis, who's clipped high. Free kick going to Laird instead, who kicks it into the pocket to Fogarty. So the high tackle went to Rory Laird, and Fogarty's taken the mark in the scoreboard pocket. 35 out, tight angle.
And that's the 6th mark now inside 50 for Adelaide. They're so much better in the last 18 months with that shorter kick, maintaining possession, whether it's coming out of defence or through the middle of the ground. But they just get it, they assess it really quick and then get it on.
So Darcy Fogarty, 28 goals, 16 for the year. This one's a difficult angle. It's pushing across the face and a minor score on the left-hand side. 4-4-28. The Crows with the opening 2 behinds in the second term. 4 minutes in on Grandstand AFL.
Just a couple of easy misses again. You know, if it's 6-4 or even a bit straighter than that too, the pressure that just goes back onto the opposition, but they sit currently at 4-4-28.
Burton plays on, goes long to the point of the centre square at right half back. To ground it comes. Jones just hacked it out of there. Vicentini couldn't take it. Milner had it briefly. Just knocked forward into the hands of Jones by Houston. So Port Adelaide pushing it ahead again through Drew. Coming across Powell Pepper, and he was met by Hinge, who came late just to make sure the ball went over the boundary line where the interchange gates are. Adelaide 4-4-28. Port Adelaide 2-2-14.
Over at the Docklands, the Bombers by a point in the second term over the Swans. Lance Franklin subbed out of the game with a suspected hamstring injury. O'Brien with a double tap down. Laird got it to Schomburg. Adelaide back inside 50. His kick a little shallow in the end, just outside the arc. Fogarty diving forward, couldn't quite get there. Burton gets it to Williams, who exits straight back where it came from. O'Brien was waiting, couldn't get through Vicentini. A handball over the top to Dawson, who walks it over under pressure from Drew.
Good pressure there from Vicentini. Hasn't had a huge influence on the game, as we've spoken about, but really important tackle there to hold up O'Brien.
So O'Brien to go against Vicentini again. And this time O'Brien just pads it down. Crouch was taken high. He'll get the free kick. Butters the error there. So it left half forward.
It's been good.
Hand passes wide to Hinge. Hinge goes long and direct. Big battle, top of the square. Walker wins it and then plays on and kicks a goal. He got away from Alia. He was too strong. And then with his second goal, allows Adelaide just to kick out to a 20-point lead. 5-4-34 for the Crows. 2-2-14 for Port Adelaide on Grandstand AFL. 5 minutes into the second term. Rod Jamieson and Josh Franco, your experts.
Look, and I don't want to keep kicking Vicentini in the guts here, but once again, the clearance count is starting to get away from Port Adelaide in this quarter. It's now 4-1. I'm watching that boundary throwing carefully. Vicentini just can't make it predictable to the midfielders for Port Adelaide. Hence, they're chasing tail. They're on the back foot. Adelaide midfielders have got confidence to get through the stoppage, and on that occasion, I think it was Crouch drew the free kick, the high tackle. Walker, outstanding contested mark goal. So at the moment, Port Adelaide again have pulled the trigger. Charlie Dixon into the ruck.
Tossed up, Dixon takes it out of the ruck with one arm. Flung it out in the tackle from O'Brien to Wines. He gets it to Drew, under pressure. Kicks it up to half forward. Juggling McEntee up against Nankervis. Good tackle as he brings him to ground at the attacking edge of the square. Ball up to come.
And the Port Adelaide mids, they've got to have a bit more of a defensive mindset. Try to take away the advantage that Adelaide had with their mids and the confidence they've got in hitting through the ball.
Dixon wins it down straight to Saligo, though. Then became the tackler, Big Charlie. Another ball up to come. Whoever Brodie Grundy's manager is, I'd be sitting by the phone Monday morning, because I think Port's about to make a call.
Yeah.
See if third time's the charm. Both rucks go through the footy. At the back, Chase Jones clears it through the logo. Alia back with the flight. Cleaned up by Thilthorpe, and Lockie Jones has not moved. Down on the logo. Play will be halted immediately. Alia in all sorts.
So's Jones.
Lockie Jones and Alia. Multiple trainers come out. Huge collision on the broadcast wing.
That was brave and ugly all at the same time, wasn't it?
Jones charging it forward. Alia back with the flight. Massive head clash. It's wiped out two key pillars of the Powers defence in one hit. Adelaide already up by 20 points. This would be a big blow, and the ball that is Lockie Jones gets to his feet, tries to brush off the trainers, but he's incredibly wobbly.
Yeah.
He cannot walk in a straight line. Meanwhile, Alia's on his haunches.
Well, Alia appeared on the replay to have the worst of that. It looked like the head of Lockie Jones hit Alia right square on the jaw. Liz Walsh on the boundary.
Yeah, both doctors have, one's escorting each player off for their two team doctors. So Travis Boak is now up off the back of the benches, and he's just sort of trying to get some indication as to whether he's going to be subbed into the game. I assume they're going to go over the vision and see whether some concussion tests are needed. I imagine they will be. Both players are now on the benches.
Two key defenders too, isn't it? Travis Boak's either going to play centre-half back or first ruck.
Off the ruck contest, once things resumed, and it was Horn Francis who booted it down the line. A little bit unlucky for Hinges. He tried to smother the ball. It came off his leg. Dixon to take the free kick for out on the full. So just near the interchange gates. Dixon plays on. Kicks it along inside 50. O'Brien goes back. Can't take the mark. Huge pack. Kick forward by Marshall. And then Smith was high on his tackle on Dersmer. And Dersmer will take a free kick. 35 out, just to the right of the goal face.
And looking at Port Adelaide with Alia and Jones going down, clearly far from ideal, but they do have a Burton. They've got Bergman, who's tall. Those two players can play as keys, which they have in the past, but waiting with bated breath to see what happens with those two boys and whether they get subbed out of the game.
You'd have to think just based on that, wasn't it, too, that they're both going to have a rest.
Dersmer's only playing his 10th game of the season, but he has 4 straight, and now he has 5 straight, and the arrow comes out. And Port Adelaide do a little bit of celebrating, something they haven't had much of tonight. Port Adelaide moves along to 3-2-20, trailing Adelaide 5-4-34, 9 minutes down in the second term at the Adelaide Oval.
And again, without getting too far ahead of ourselves, if they do go down with concussion, they miss next week as well. We can talk about that post-game. But yeah, it's a massive story in the context of this Showdown 54.
Well, it just stretches everything, doesn't it, too? Already they're 26 interchanges, Adelaide are 24. You would probably see that then slow down. So then, there's more time on the ground and in rolls. Liz on the boundary.
Interestingly, nothing much is happening down here. Travis Boak isn't moving at all. Aliir is having some blood mopped up on his chin. Lockie Jones, they're all just sitting on the bench at the moment. So I'll get in touch with the club and find out what's going on.
14-point margin. O'Brien wins it down. Wide of Crouch. Drew put his hands over the footy and O'Brien socked through them. Whistle stayed away. Dersman tried to pick it up. Had two goes at it. Smith on his tail. Came out to Dawson for the Crows. Hands it to Crouch. Now Murphy. Back to Smith. Around the body. High up towards the arc. Charging out is Saligo. Couldn't quite get there in time. It bounces through the pack. Walker handed it into the chest of Rosie. Now Dersma flung off the footy and coughed it up as a result. Fogarty 45 out. Gets it to Walker. Crouch off to Pedler. From 45 launches an absolute rocket, but it's a minus score on the right-hand side. Enough height to hit the hill. Adelaide up by 15 points. 5-5-35. Plays 3-2-20. 11 minutes into the second term on Grandstand AFL.
Just the slickness of Adelaide's hands. Port Adelaide couldn't get a glove on them.
Farrell short to Rosie, who gave it back to Farrell. He went long to centre wing and Keane took a nice mark.
He reads it well, doesn't he, too? Here we go. Look at this. Right foot bomb.
Into the scoreboard pocket again, and Farrell comes and takes a nice mark. Off the ball, thrown to ground was McKenzie. It might have been Walker was at fault there, but Farrell will take the ball. Goes wide with his kick. And out on centre wing, Vicentini beaten pointlessly, and it won't be play on. Yes, it will be play on advantage. I thought O'Brien would be paid the mark. Instead, off the mark, it was taken away by Hinge. Drops it in short, and right at the top of the 50, it's Saligo with the mark, and he'll go back to have a shot at goal.
It's a really valid call because you cannot play on or to the advantage if a player is adjudicated to take a mark.
And just another example of Port Adelaide. They need to avoid kicking long down the line where they've got O'Brien set up to take those contested marks. They need to keep changing the angles and making Adelaide defend.
Saligo kicks from 55. He's not going to make the distance, and he's away with his accuracy as well. In the end, he did actually just make the distance for the minus score. 16 the margin in favour of Adelaide. Liz Walsh.
Lockie Jones, after that collision with his teammate Aliir, he's now been taken down into the change rooms, but still the tactical sub Travis Boak is sitting on the bench.
1 goal 4 for the Crows this term, yet to put the game to bed. Put Adelaide now on the rebound. Long ball up towards right half forward. A little bit too hot in the end for Burne-Jones and Miller up. Over the back, it'll tumble over the boundary line just outside the arc.
Matt Crouch couldn't get a game for how many weeks? He's had 13 disposals and has been probably one of the dominant midfielders on the ground to date.
And what I love about what he's doing, he's going at 92% disposal efficiency. So that's the huge knock-on for him. It's incredible tonight.
Toss back in. Vicentini won a hit out, but it didn't go to anyone. And it rolls back towards the boundary line. Schomburg sliding in will roll it over.
And let's add to that too. 6 contested, 3 ground ball gets, 5 clearances, 6 inside 50, 4 score involvements already, and we're only halfway through the second.
O'Brien in front position now. Vicentini goes to ground. O'Brien's tap went in the path of Rosie. Schomburg ran him down with the tackle. Came out. Now Hinge. Back to Laird, who fumbled in front of the benches. Right where Aliir is standing, Liz.
That's exactly right. The collision between he and Lockie Jones looked really horrible, but Aliir amazingly is now running back out onto the ground.
Doesn't there need to be a mandatory time period to check concussions?
This will be hugely looked at by the AFL. Like in a contest like that, for as long as he was down, the doctors will put their proverbials on the line there on that call.
Off the ruck contest, Rosie running backwards from his goal, eventually turned around, had it for a long time, gave it to Vicentini, hand passed off to Butters, skirts the boundary line with a bounce and then inside 50. Ball comes to the front, Keys took it, gave it away straight away. Horne-Francis through the pack, released it out to Burne-Jones, taken down in a tackle as he got the hand pass back. Adelaide force a turnover, down the line goes Keys. And O'Brien with the mark straight away inside to Laird. Running was Miller. Inside 50, nothing available. Had the head pass over the top. Now it's a battle with Aliir, who gets the foot to the ball ahead of Fogarty. Top of the 50 for Adelaide, picked up by Bergman for Port Adelaide. Handed it off to Burton, who down the line he goes towards the wing. Over the top came Hinge, didn't pull in the mark. Close to the boundary line, picked up Powell Pepper. Now Butters, forward hand pass, found Evans. Inside 50 with the kick. Charlie Dixon comes and meets it, holds the hand up, keeps the ball in. Left foot towards the goal face. Out comes Finlayson, drops it. Adelaide will come away. Worrell received the hand pass from Smith, and then towards the boundary line, and the umpire said, well, that was insufficient intent. It'll come in for Port Adelaide through Dersma out on the eastern side.
How good a game is this?
Just the pressure, wasn't it, too?
It's
like
hot footy.
Just that Wayne Miller mistake in the middle of the ground. Even if he just got his foot to it, put it deep in the 50, short pass.
Dersma tried to put it on the chest of Powell Pepper, who's bowled over by Hinge, went back to Dersma. Second attempt was wide of Finlayson, who gives it to him instead of fighting for the footy. Finlayson's filthy. Meanwhile, the tackle laid 15 out on Evans by Laird. Will get a ball up. Left forward pocket. Port Adelaide still get another chance here. O'Brien wins it down. Coming through Rosie, trying to break through the Hinge tackle. Got a handball out late. Burne-Jones is wrapped up as well. 30 out, slight angle to the left.
Just that Dersma entry as well. He's gone to a 50-50 to Powell Pepper. Should have kicked it long and deep. Put pressure, maximum pressure on the Adelaide defenders and lock it in your forward line.
Up goes the ball, O'Brien. Got the tap down. It's off the foot of Rosie miraculously. Or was it Butters?
I think they're going to say touched here, Crossy. Well, off the boot.
They're going to have a review of it. It went through the goals. Wait on the soft call. Was touched. So the umpires will just await the decision from the arc.
Review complete.
And clearly it was touched off the boot of Butters. And it might have been O'Brien, the big man, getting the hand to the ball. And he's shaping as a showdown medalist, dare I say. I know we're not even at half-time, but he's had a good outing thus far. Minor score for Port Adelaide.
So a quick update on Aliir. In the AFL's concussion guidelines, if symptoms persist and a player needs to be removed from play due to a concussion assessment, they have to be off for a minimum of 15 minutes. Now, if a player is lying motionless for greater than 2 seconds, they must have an assessment. And we saw that. Meanwhile, Adelaide have counted. Up to left half forward. Thilthorpe into the 50 to Fogarty. Excellent end-to-end footy. Free-flowing in the space of 5 seconds. Bang, bang, bang. Darcy Fogarty has a shot on goal, slightly left of centre. Aliir will stand the mark, 45 out.
Another huge improvement where Adelaide is going from one end to the other. They have been criticised in the past. They're too slow. They sit back. They just go down the line, allow the defence to set up behind it. But just on that occasion, just mark, get it on quickly.
Minor score so far tonight. Darcy Fogarty, shorter approach, kicks just inside the arc. Absolutely heaves it home. Adelaide extend the margin to a game-high 21 points. 6-6-42, plays 3-3-21. Approaching time on in the second term. Liz Walsh downstairs.
A bit of a concern for the Crows' already depleted backlines. Jordan Butts has come from the ground. He is in the hands of trainers. The doctor's actually really assessing his right foot at the moment, and he looks in a bit of pain. He's grimacing down here. Meanwhile, we're still to hear from Port Adelaide about Lockie Jones, who is still down in the rooms after his collision with Aliir. But as I keep saying, Travis Boak is still just sitting on the bench as the tacticals up.
The Aliir one will be heavily scrutinised by the AFL. Like, that is the policy right there.
They've got spotters for this as well.
Yeah.
They're supposed to, and fair play to Liz, who's earning her money tonight downstairs as well.
Well, she's had it pretty easy for the first part of the year.
What a contest. Out of the middle, it's taken by Port Adelaide. Out of the ruck by big Charlie Dixon. Adelaide will come away from half-back. Hand pass comes out from Hinge to Crouch, and he goes sideways to Soligo. Out on the eastern side, 2 bounces towards centre wing. Can't make up his mind, finally does. Goes towards the forward 50. Looked like Taylor Walker had an arm pulled by Bergman, and that's what the umpire saw. He went at it with one hand because the other one was being held. Walker quickly on to it, past the ball, 20 from goal. He was looking for Thilthorpe, he missed him. Port Adelaide will take over. Burton got one high, surely, and he did. So it'll be a free kick, just an errant arm initially there from Keys, I think it was.
Tell you what, if it wasn't high cross, it was holding the ball.
Yeah.
Took the tackler on and nearly paid the price, Burton.
Yeah, Schonberg just got him a little high. They clear it out the eastern side, off the ground, off the pack from Powell Pepper, down to half forward. And trying to stand up was Horn Francis. In the end, he had to hand pass away. It's taken by Dawson across to Worrell. Gets a hand pass in the middle of the ground out in the direction of Laird. Dawson takes it away from him, down to half forward. Phil Thorpe patted it out and the umpire said throw.
Tell you what, when they turn the footy over off their back half, you just mentioned that their transition, Port Adelaide can't slow them down.
Yeah,
and probably one of the big key indicators is the marks inside 50. At the moment, they've taken 9, the Adelaide Footy Club. Port Adelaide yet to take one inside their forward 50.
Through the spine goes Bergman. Dixon presenting, was held by Thilthorpe. Wines will take the advantage, puts it in the path of Powell Pepper, back with the flight. Just a little heavy. Hinge now charging onto it. Horn Francis on his tail, applying pressure. Hinge did well on hands and knees. Shoveled a handball out to Nankervis. His kick flirting with the boundary line, but just stayed in enough. And escorted over by McAdam for a boundary throw in. Liz Walsh.
Jordan Butts has just tried to stand up and do a little run along the boundary line under the close full watch of the doctor, and honestly he just looked at the doctor and went nah. So I'd expect him to be subbed out soon.
Jason Horn Francis has gone to full forward.
Might become a little man's game at this stage. A couple of big men with a bit of a problem, one on each side.
We're even going back to Adelaide's ball movement. When there's speed on the ball, as a defender, it's really difficult to defend. And at the moment, as I said, Port Adelaide are unable to slow Adelaide down when the ball's turned over off half-back. They are running and gunning and able to maintain possession and putting Port Adelaide's defence under pressure.
Sam Powell Pepper, 6 disposals, has not laid one tackle.
Need to get him involved in the game. I'd put him on ball.
Another win for Adelaide in the ruck contest. And near the boundary line, it was taken by Crouch, gave it to Laird, was taken high. So right near the interchange gates, Laird with the ball, drops it in short for Crouch.
Saying that, it's still only 21 points, isn't it, too?
Doesn't feel like it, though, does it? Yeah.
Adelaide should be probably another 3 or 4 ahead.
Yeah.
Crouch inside 50 with a kick. O'Brien came across the front of the pack and it was punched over the line by the defence of Port Adelaide. So 25 around from the goalface. Left forward pocket for Adelaide. 8-6-42, plays 3-3-21. The Crows with the lead. Let's see Butts walking along the boundary line heading for the change rooms.
Matt Crouch with 16 touches, out of contract. He's got value regardless of where he ends up. Walker with the fifth, straight to Laird. Bounced off towards Murphy. Gets it out to Walker from 40. Didn't get the angle. Almost a slow spiral and a minor score on the right-hand side. Adelaide have kicked 2 goals, 5 this term. And the margin stuck at 22 points as Port Adelaide race with a couple of bounces out to the eastern side. Farrell's taken at least 3 through the scoreboard pocket and launched it up to the logo.
Comes off the hands of Finlayson, though, into the hands of Dawson. Hand pass inboard. Went from Crouch to Murphy. Inside 50, Allaire with the intercept mark ahead of Walker, read it best. So Allaire 40 out from goal. Just drops it in short. Houston with the ball, top of the 50, the defensive 50. And Port Adelaide decide, well, let's just slow things down. And the exit kick was meant for Bergman. He missed him. Getting across was Keys, but it comes away for Drew, and Drew sends it long for Charlie Dixon. Numbers there for Adelaide. It's tipped on for Evans by Horn Francis. He goes into open goal and no problems at all. Port Adelaide get one back late in the second term. Port Adelaide now with Evans having 2. And it is Port Adelaide 4-3-27. Adelaide 6-7-43. 23 minutes down.
I actually didn't mind that play from Port Adelaide. Almost, and we've spoken about their inability to slow Adelaide down when that turnover is caused off the Crows' half-back, Port Adelaide's half-forward line. So maybe they need to change the tempo of the game. So talk about going into a sort of more of a kick mark. If you go into a kick mark and try to march the ball up the ground, it gives your defenders the ability to defend behind the ball. Whereas if you go run and gun, which Port Adelaide do like to do and like to go quick on turnover as well, you get caught scrambling when the ball's turned over. So maybe they need to change the method and the mode with which they play to go a bit more kick mark it up, march it up there and set up well behind the footy.
16-point lead to the Crows. Vicentini taps it out towards Rosie. Socket it to the eastern wing. Dersma with a hip and shoulder, bouncing off Saligo. 1 out. Gave it to Rosie. He coughed it up. handed it to Laird. Up to right half forward, it clears Aaliyah and Walker. At the back, Thilthorpe gathers low on his feet, gave it to Walker. A tumbling kick didn't favour McAdam. Ricochets off him and Bergman. Wines now in defensive 50, gave it to Aaliyah. Houston's kick smothered by Crouch. Fighting with a heavy clash. Threw his body on the line against Butters. Both are okay, but gee, it is intense out there. We've had carnage all night. Quick ball up, 55 out. O'Brien wins it down straight to Laird, fumbled under pressure. Schomburg ran out of room. Burton got him holding the ball. Here come the power.
Dersma with the advantage, plays on, down centre wing. Keane got rid of his man, took the mark for Adelaide away from Dixon. So right on the logo on the eastern side of the ground. Making a good debut for Adelaide. Keane decides to play on. Eventually skips around, kicks it long down the line. Dawson comes and takes a chest mark. Around on the left foot, bangs it into the pocket. Coming out was McAdam. Walker at the back, slides the ball home for a goal. Taylor Walker with 3 goals. What a half of football for the Crows. They move along to 7-7-49. Port Adelaide 4-3-27. So an immediate answer for the Crows to Port's goal. And they are in control of this match. 22 points clear again. 26 minutes into the quarter, just before half-time. Liz Walsh on the boundary. What's the story down there? You've been busy.
I have been, and it's so chaotic down here, also because there's such a big crowd as well. But Rory Sloane has just taken his training top off. He will be subbed into the game, and I'm assuming Jordan Butts is out.
And what you just exactly said, Josh, too, you want Port Adelaide to slow it down. They actually did exactly the opposite, didn't they?
Yep.
They got the footy in the back half. They tried to get it on really quickly. They went long to Dixon. Keane just playing really smart up against Charlie, wins the football and then goes straight back over their head for Adelaide's 7th goal.
O'Brien wins it down in the middle. Vicentini, though, gets the clearance. Pulled it down to his boot, up to half forward. Wines juggling against Hinge. Got a handball back to Dersma. Fell back as he kicked straight up into the arc. Schomburg sat underneath it. Slipped through, but Miller was at the back. Hands it to Laird. Now Keane, long ball for the Crows, outer wing. O'Brien charging across, collided with Dawson. The skipper stays up, fought for the footy, but handed it to Horne-Francis, who's caught high. Tackle from Matt Crouch as he slid in to gather the footy. And the youngster Jason Horne-Francis pops up. He'll hand it to the cannon, Mackenzie. Into the left forward pocket, he's looking for Dixon, pushed out of it by Keane, both hands. But as we've seen throughout the year, it won't be paid, and the intercept mark goes the way of the Irishman.
Spreads the ball from one side to the other to Worrell, and then Worrell just shanks his kick outside of the left boot, sends it over the boundary line here on the broadcast side. Farrell will have the opportunity to send Port Adelaide inside 50. So he just holds it up, waits, takes his time. Adelaide have just about everybody behind the ball now as Farrell goes into the forward pocket. Carries the pack, or carries the target at least, picked up by Worrell. This time he keeps the ball in play as he clears the 50. Comes off, hands to Miller. Long hand pass to Walker, who just belted it forward. Coming across Houston, picked it up under pressure. Gave the hand pass off to Farrell, dropped it in short. Coming late, knocking away Miller. Receives a hand pass from Adelaide. McAdam inside, bad kick. Butters, chance, no, he can't go to the corridor, there was nobody available.
Take a breath.
Down the line he went to Rosie.
Not you, Crossy, but Port Adelaide.
Rosie around the body.
Look at that.
Awkward kick. Marshall underneath it, as was Jones, cleared both at the back. Keane dummied his handball through Evans and then clears the kick back to the logo. Farrell back with the flight, brought it to ground. Rosie volleys it up towards the boundary line. Miller is there though for Adelaide. Over the top, he'll head to half forward. They have the outnumber if they can win this contest. Keys was brave, and he did enough. Sloan the sub, gives it to Schomburg. Empty arc, but his kick is wayward. Minus score on the right-hand side. 23 points the margin. 7-8-50, plays 4-3-27, late stages of the second term. Liz Walsh on the boundary.
Meanwhile, Lockie Jones has now come out from the change rooms in big discussions with the team doctors still. No word from the club as to what's going on, though.
Could have absolutely iced this game up to this point. Fogarty missed an easy. Schoenberg on that occasion. Saligo as well. Dawson as well. And there's 2 or 3 others that have missed under pressure.
Dersma plays on from fullback, brings the ball in long.
And that's how
virtually
the game,
uncontested Dawson with the mark.
That's how the game feels, isn't it, Jamo? It feels like Adelaide have been totally dominant.
Dawson inside 50, Aaliyah flies high, big pack, comes to ground, squirts out into the hands of Horn Francis, clears it away with a quick kick, and that'll be insufficient intent. Dawson, ball in hand from about the position he kicked a goal famously last year that won a showdown. Inside 50, he goes into the pocket, and that shows you where Port Adelaide's at, because Pal Pepper probably had an uncontested mark available and instead thrust up an arm and punched it over the line for the throw-in.
There's only 3, now 4 players of Port Adelaide outside Adelaide's 50. Otherwise, the rest are in there. Congested area. The uncertainty at the moment and how often it's going inside forward 50 for Adelaide.
Toss back in, Vicentini tapped it straight to Sloan, but he can't break away. Brought to ground quickly in the tackle.
Just over a minute remaining to time in possession in this quarter, 46% to Adelaide, 37 to Port.
Tossed up Vicentini with the fist over Walker, got it in the path of Dersma, couldn't get it at his toes. Keys flicks it back to Dawson, left forward pocket, McAdams outnumbered. They had been pushed over the boundary line by Burton. In the end, it's out on the full. Free kick to go to Port Adelaide, right back pocket.
And even on that occasion, Adelaide just cleaner in the clinches. I think it was Dersma that fumbled, but Dawson, I think it was Dawson that picked it up. Just cleaner below their knees, dealing with the pressure of Port Adelaide, as opposed to Port Adelaide fumbling and bubbling their way around inside the stoppages 50s. And the scramble.
Sorry, Josh, inside 50s, 31 apiece.
It's not working this either. This long kick down the line for the Power.
Keane intercepts again, tries to get around Dixon, able to release a hand pass in the tackle, and then a short kick from Miller inside 50, and it's Fogarty with the lead up on the mark, and he can take his 30 seconds and probably make this pretty much the last action of the first half.
I think it was the Irishman, but...
Well, I was going to say it's not working for Port Adelaide, and that's for a pretty good reason. Keane has been outstanding.
9 disposals, 4 marks in defence, and he's going at 89% disposal efficiency.
This will be a dagger in the heart of Port Adelaide if he kicks this, and Fogarty are normally a beautiful set shot for goal.
Fogarty marches in over the 50, comes in, and that's accurate. It never wavered at all. Adelaide extend the lead to a game high. 8-8-56. Place 4-3-27. A 29-point lead as we close in on half-time. Just 10 seconds before the siren. That's a good finish for Adelaide.
Well, I tell you what, we spoke about Adelaide at quarter time. This quarter they've been absolutely dominant. I think you talked about time in possession. They've absolutely destroyed Port Adelaide in terms of their ability to get hold of the footy. And at the moment, half-time can't come quick enough.
Yeah.
And I dare say there'll be some pretty stern and strong words spoken to the Port Adelaide midfield because, as I said, they can't get their hands on the footy. They are flat-footed. They look tentative. They're fumbly and bumbly. And full credit to Adelaide. Their intensity around the scramble and at the stoppages have been absolutely outstanding. And that's where the game's been won so far.
Smashed in all the areas where Port Adelaide are very good.
Correct.
Ruck contest in the middle, both of them throwing their boots at the footy, trying to get a clearance. Eventually Vicentini wins out. Wines charging into the footy, brought down without it. And at half-time, as you can hear, Adelaide's home game, the Crows have a 29-point advantage in Showdown 54. Alarm bells for the Power. With injury carnage on both sides. Jordan Butt subbed out of the game. Lockie Jones maybe joining him shortly after a head clash with Aaliyah, who stayed out there and will certainly be looked at by the AFL. Goal scorers at the major break for the Crows. 3 to Walker, 2 to Fogarty, singles to McAdam, Murphy and Keys. For Port Adelaide, 2 to Evans, and singles to Dixon and Dersma. It's had a little bit of everything, and there's a lot on the line tonight. Adelaide fighting to keep its season alive. Port, despite Brisbane losing earlier today, would love a two-game gap in the top 2, but they're going to need to find something here because they're heading towards a 3-game losing streak, Jamo.
Yeah, look, they've just got the matchups right. They're clean. Their defensive work, they're really precise both by foot and by hand coming out of defence. And look, Mark Keane, Mitch Hinge doing a great job. There's a couple of mistakes, a couple of the younger players in Worrell and Nankervis coming out of defence too, but they've just got the numbers, they've got the run. Miller at 2, just clean. He missed one here on the wing where Port Adelaide turn it over, but they turn it over and they just bomb away, and then the Adelaide defence set up and it just goes straight back over their head at the minute. Again, we just spoke about the easy misses by Adelaide, and the margin could be so much more, and that's probably, if the knock-on of Adelaide, like last week, that was the issue. They just cannot absolutely put sides away early.
Yep.
And they could be 50 points up here at half-time, and it would be all done and dusted pretty much so, with all the things that now Port Adelaide have to contend with once they get back out here on three-quarter time. The assessing a couple of players, 10 in Alir, whether he's got enough to go back on, and he sort of fell away in the latter part of that second quarter.
And just to even echo what you said then, Gemmo, Adelaide have been absolutely outstanding. And I look at Dawson, he really imposed himself on the game that quarter, even though he did have a pretty solid first quarter. Matt Crouch, who couldn't get a game for 100 weeks or whatever it's been, has been absolutely outstanding. He's had 18 disposals. He's running at 94% disposal efficiency, has been hugely influential. And you talked about Miller, you talked about Laird. They've just all been able to get hold of the footy, apply pressure to the opposition in Port Adelaide, create turnovers. And as we said in that quarter, Port Adelaide are unable to slow Adelaide down when they do turn the footy over. So, again, Port Adelaide coaching staff, they'll go in at half-time. They'll be scratching their heads. What do? They've got to get their midfielders involved. Even though Rosie and Butters have had a little bit of the footy, there's just not enough contributors having an influence on this game and causing opportunities where Port Adelaide can score, because at the moment they don't even look like kicking a goal.
And defensively too, Adelaide 46 tackles to 26. So when Port Adelaide are getting it in to their forward 50, so 31 to 32 Adelaide's favour, you have a look at Sam Powell-Pepper, normally where he's so good. He has not laid one tackle as yet. Darcy Byrne-Jones, not one tackle yet. Todd Marshall's had the 2. And you look at Jed McEntee, he's only had the 1. Finlayson has only had, so the defensive work, once it gets in there, it's getting out way too easy.
And that's the game. That's the game right there, 46 to 26 tackles. Even though, as we said, Adelaide have dominated this game, they're still plus 20 in tackles. Normally, that could be an indication that they're second of the footy, but I guarantee you they're not. You're watching this live, you're watching this at TV at home, you're listening to us on the radio. They have been absolutely electric in the scramble. And as we said, even late in that quarter, we saw Dersma with a fumble because there's pressure coming, a perceived pressure. It's not the Port Adelaide we've seen over the last 8 weeks of footy, other than probably a couple of weeks ago against Carlton.
Well, even 7 days ago too.
That's right.
Collingwood, they were tremendous, and they just missed out.
Is it a little bit of a trend though? Against Carlton, they were beaten at the source with the intensity of the Blues. Against Collingwood in the final term, they fall over under the pressure of Collingwood, which a lot of teams do. But is it almost the tackling intensity of Adelaide tonight, even that Port Adelaide's midfield is struggling when the heat is on?
I think absolutely spot on. I must admit, I guess I put my Port Adelaide hat. I watched the Carlton game a few weeks ago, and I think I even mentioned on the broadcast last week that it was the loss that Port Adelaide had to have. But you talk about trend, that last quarter against Collingwood, we're seeing it again in the first half of this evening. And it's almost the situation or the scenario where, how many in a row did they win? Was it 13? 13 in a row. They almost had this aura that they're unbeatable, but they get to the point where opposition are smelling blood against them. They know if you bring it, a maximum amount of heat and apply a maximum amount of heat to Port Adelaide in the midfield particularly, they're vulnerable, and they have been tonight.
Interesting, just statistically, Adelaide's now, with winning both quarters in this match, have won 40 quarters for the year. How many more do you reckon Port Adelaide's won? Considering their position on the ladder.
2?
They've only won 42 quarters this year, and yet obviously Adelaide's sitting before the round is sitting 13th and Port Adelaide's second. So, you can pull stats from everywhere, but it sort of indicates that the problem for Adelaide, Jamo, may well be they can't finish off games, and Port Adelaide will come at them in the second half.
Absolutely.
I think, and they will be tested because of the challenge to the depth and the rotation now. So whether Port Adelaide can hold on or maintain it or come at them as hard as what they would normally do. I've just gone back to have a look at the Carlton-Port Adelaide game. Port Adelaide they won the clearances that game too, 43-42. The centre clearances they won 16-14. Contested, they lost 151 to 149, but they won the uncontested 203 to 194. So I think, again, we get back to the point, as we're seeing tonight, they can get it inside 50. They don't have a problem getting it in there. They just can't get the players to mark the football inside 50, and they're not scoring and getting the result what they need after all the hard work.
Here's another stat on that too. They are ranked 17th for their conversion from marks inside 50, 56%.
We should be coaches.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the other thing as well from Port Adelaide's point of view is that when it goes in there, when they're at their best, guys like Powell-Pepper, Byrne-Jones, McEntee are having an influence. Tonight they haven't. We've seen Powell-Pepper, you mentioned, hasn't laid one tackle.
Yep.
And they've been out-tackled collectively across the board. But they continue to play this quick, fast play, keep the ball live brand of footy. At the moment, it's not working because we've talked about Adelaide and how good their transition from their D50 into their forward 50. They've taken 10 marks inside their forward 50. Port Adelaide just unable to slow them down because they can't get pressure on the ball carrier. So, again, from Port Adelaide perspective, they've got to change the way they play. Get the game on their terms, slow it down, set up defensively behind the ball so that if the ball is turned over, at least they've got some shape behind the ball. But at the moment, they're scrambling. And full credit to Adelaide because they've been superb.
And just to round it out, Riley O'Brien, he's had 24 hit-outs to Vicentini, 11. Phil Thorpe, the 6, and then it goes to Dixon and Walker. Hit-outs to advantage O'Brien. Not as much as what I thought. 5-2 in favour of Adelaide. Crouch, clearance work, 7 outstanding. Then Rosie Butters, and then followed by Dawson Schoenberg. First possession, Crouch 6, Rosie Butters 5 and 4, and Drew chipping in there with 3. So, albeit the hit-outs is probably the one, but they're actually not as bad at the moment. But the stoppage work is an area where Adelaide's on top.
And that's where, we've spoken about it, that as a midfielder, if you have got confidence, your ruckman's going to get his hands on the footy, even though it might not be a perfect connect, an absolute effective clearance. You've got confidence to actually get on the move and take the ball with you and take body with you. And that's what Adelaide are doing at the moment, whereas Port Adelaide are flat-footed, they're reactive. And what's translating as a result of that is that Adelaide's pressure's been outstanding and Port Adelaide aren't coping with it. So it's actually been an absolute clinic from the Adelaide Footy Club in the first half.
The thoughts of Josh Franco and Rod Jamieson at half-time here at the Adelaide Oval. The Crows up by 29 points. And over at the Docklands, the Bombers and the Swans colliding. You can hear that on the ABC Listen app. The second half just started, and Sydney lead by 19 points, 10-5-65 to 7-4-46. The injury news there, Lance Franklin has suffered a hamstring injury and has been subbed out of the game. Plenty to update you on, especially with what's happening on the ABC Listen app, because there is the Bledisloe Cup tonight. We've got the Ashes, day 3, obviously 2 games of footy, plenty of NRL, so we'll run through it all in a moment. But for now, on ABC Radio, Sport Digital and the Listen app, we can take you to the latest from the ABC newsroom.
ABC News with Satyam Weinstein. The ADF has grounded Australia's fleet of MRH-90 Taipan helicopters after a crash off North Queensland that's left 4 aircrew members missing. Laura Lavelle reports.
2 Australian Defence Force helicopters were engaging in a 2-chopper mission just off Hamilton Island in North Queensland off the coast of Mackay. One of those helicopters ditched down and disappeared. The other helicopter immediately began searching. The helicopter those 4 people were on, the MRH-90, also known as a Taipan, that fleet has now been temporarily grounded in the wake of this absolute tragedy. Search will pick up again in the morning. It's been confirmed that ADF divers have been called in to be part of the search and rescue operations. They'll be using sonar technology to help locate some of the wreckage.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has suggested his country won't stop pursuing WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange anytime soon. The 51-year-old Australian is fighting attempts to extradite him from Britain to the U.S., where he'll face espionage charges related to the publishing of tens of thousands of classified military and diplomatic documents. Foreign Minister Penny Wong says Australia is concerned the case has dragged on for far too long. But Mr. Blinken says Julian Assange put the security of the United States at significant risk.
So I say that only because, just as we understand sensitivities here, it's important that our friends understand sensitivities in the United States.
Voting has closed in a by-election for the Western Australian seat of Rockingham, previously held by the former Premier, Mark McGowan. The electorate's considered a safest Labor seat in WA and has been held by the party since it was created in 1974. Labor is widely expected to retain the seat with its candidate, Magenta Marshall, but the party's 37% margin could swing towards Rockingham Deputy Mayor Hayley Edwards, who's running as an independent, or the Liberal candidate, 21-year-old Peter Hudson. The United States is warning the military in Niger that its financial support is at risk following a coup. The West African nation's considered a key Western ally in the fight against Islamist militants in the region. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says deposed President Mohamed Bazoum has Washington's unflagging support and funding is under threat. He says the economic and security partnership with Niger is significant, worth hundreds of millions of dollars, depends on the continuation of the democratic government governance and constitutional order that's been disrupted by the actions of the past few days. Russian cruise missiles have hit a residential complex in a nearby security service building in one of Ukraine's central cities. Chelsea Hetherington has more.
Officials in Dnipro say it's the third time the security service building in the city has been targeted. Part of a residential complex has also been reduced to rubble and debris strewn across a large courtyard. Both structures were largely empty, the residential building because it had just been completed and units were being put up for sale. Several people have been injured, but there have been no reported fatalities. Russia's forces have intensified evening and nighttime missile attacks on a variety of targets, but says it does not target civilian sites.
The US has announced more than $500 million in military aid for Taiwan. The White House says the package will include defense, education and training. US politicians have been pressuring the Pentagon and White House to send weapons to Taiwan to help it counter China's growing assertiveness. China claims democratic Taiwan as its own territory. Republican presidential rivals Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis have appeared at the same event for the first time in the 2024 White House race. Their joint appearance in the state of Iowa comes just a day after Mr. Trump faced fresh criminal charges. He's been relentlessly attacking Mr. DeSantis, his nearest rival for the Republican nomination. The Anti-Defamation Commission is calling on the Victorian government to strengthen laws against Nazism after an anti-Semitic handbill was distributed in Melbourne's Inner East. Victorian and federal police are investigating the document, which included a doctored image of independent federal MPs Monique Ryan and Zoe Daniel with a Nazi salute and a photo of Adolf Hitler. Nazi hate symbols are banned in Victoria, but Dr. Davir Abramovich says the government should consider outlawing the glorification of Nazism more broadly.
And I think not just law enforcement, but every elected official and representative needs to declare in a loud voice that this cannot stand, that we will push back against this cancer of intolerance.
You're up to date with ABC News.
Hey, it's Declan and Lavender from Sport and Spice, where the chat is well seasoned.
Spicy even. Every week we keep you in the loop with the juiciest and most important and sometimes most ridiculous sports stories around.
We also chat to plenty of amazing athletes along the way.
I actually got kicked out of school last year.
But down here it is a real fight with rugby league and AFL.
I mean, I'm a bit worried. I don't want to cop it too much. And I think if you're not a part of it, you should have FOMO.
Sport and Spice. Find it on the ABC Listen app or in the podcast store under the Best of ABC Sport.
Grandstand AFL.
Now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
Both rucks go through the footy. At the back, Chase Jones clears it through the logo. Aaliyah back with the flight. Cleaned up by Thilthorpe and Lockie Jones. Has not moved. Down on the logo. Play will be halted immediately. Aaliyah in all sorts. Lockie Jones and Aaliyah. Multiple trainers come out. Huge collision on the broadcast wing.
That was brave and ugly all at the same time.
Aaliyah amazingly is now running back out onto the ground.
Doesn't there need to be a mandatory time period to check
this will be hugely looked at by the AFL. Like in a contest like that, for as long as he was down, the doctors will put their proverbials on the line there on that call.
Meanwhile, Adelaide have counted up to left half forward. Thilthorpe into the 50 to Fogarty. Excellent end-to-end footy. Marcy Fogarty, shorter approach, kicks just inside the arc, absolutely heaves it home.
Drew sends it long for Charlie Dixon. Numbers there for Adelaide. It's tipped on for Evans by Horn Francis. He goes into open goal and no problems at all. Port Adelaide get one back late in the second term. Dawson comes and takes a chest mark. Around on the left foot, bangs it into the pocket. Coming out was McAdam. Walker at the back, slides the ball home for a goal. What a half of football for the Crows.
At the moment, half-time can't come quick enough. And I dare say there'll be some pretty stern and strong words spoken to the Port Adelaide midfield.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
And now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
Showdown 54's had a little bit of everything. But Adelaide has the lead at the major break. 29 points amidst a ton of carnage out on the ground. Jordan Butt subbed out with an ankle injury. Lockie Jones is out with what is now being reported as a migraine after that head clash with Aaliyah. And Port Adelaide has confirmed that there was no head impact assessment for Aaliyah. and their club doctor, Mark Fisher, examined the vision and was satisfied that there was no need for one. So the AFL will certainly have a look at that, because under their guidelines, Aaliyah is motionless. I've watched the replay for at least more than 4 or 5 seconds. He's plummeted. Both his knees have collapsed after the head contest, and he's fallen backwards and then laid motionless on his side for a significant period of time. And in their guidelines, it's anything longer than 2 seconds requires an assessment, and he has not been given one. So he remains out there. That's a conversation for the post-game. But for the now, it is Adelaide in control and Port Adelaide steering towards a 3-game losing streak. Aaron Bryans and Neil Cross with you, your experts, Rod Jamieson and Josh Franco, with Liz Walsh down on the boundary. There is a lot happening around the country and the globe. And the ABC Listen app is your home for it all. So the footy, obviously tonight, we're available on the Extra button. The Bombers and Swans game is available on the AFL button. Currently in the middle of the third term, Sydney lead by 31 points over Essendon, 13-6, 84 to 8-5, 53. Lance Franklin subbed out with a hamstring injury. Joel Amati has 4 goals for the Swans, Sam Wicks with 3, and Cole Langford with 3 for the Bombers. In the NRL, which you can hear on the NRL button on the ABC Listen app, today we saw the Knights defeat the Raiders 28-6. The Seagulls defeat the Dragons 24-18. And at the moment, the Panthers lead the Sharks 26-0 at the 62-minute mark. Day 3 of the Ashes has commenced at the Oval. You can hear that on the cricket button of the ABC Listen app. England are none for 66 after a flying start. Bazball certainly at play with Zach Crawley and Ben Duckett on 23 and 39 respectively. England lead Australia by 54 runs in their second innings. The Women's World Cup, which again is available to you on the ABC Listen app. Sweden defeated Italy 5-0, I should say. France are leading Brazil 1-0 at the 49-minute mark. What a blockbuster that is. And still to come tonight, Panama and Jamaica. And the Bledisloe Cup, which you can hear on the Listen app through ABC Brisbane. You have to hit the ABC Brisbane button. The All Blacks lead the Wallabies at halftime 19-7. So no shock there at the MCG. The New Zealanders are up, but still a pretty decent margin that the Wallabies can fight back from if they so choose. Here at the Adelaide Oval, Crows by 29 points. I should mention the earlier games today as well. Crossy, while you're chuckling away there, trying to breeze through it all. Fremantle defeated Geelong by 7 points in what could be deemed an upset at Kardinia Park. Andrew Brayshaw had 28 touches. Blitzavs and Hawkins with hamstring injuries for the Cats. GWS defeated the Western Bulldogs by 5 points. Toby Green a star with 5 goals. And injury blow to the Dogs. Keith with a concussion and Josh Bruce with a knee. And the Q Clash went the way of Gold Coast by 41 points. Sam Flanders with 32 touches and Ben King with 5 goals. Adelaide by 29 points. Jamo, Josh, your tips from here?
Oh, I think Adelaide too good.
Yeah.
Unless something drastically happens in the first 10 minutes of this quarter and Port Adelaide can find a bit of their mojo, a bit of a spark. I think Adelaide at the moment are just playing such a good brand of footy that Port Adelaide aren't coping with. Now, I'd imagine that Hinkley and the coaching staff would have put some acid on the midfield of Port Adelaide. The Horn Francis has hardly been influential. Drew hasn't had much impact. But definitely the gauntlet would have been laid down to those guys. Get going or get off, and we'll give other guys a go. Adelaide will be too good.
Yeah, I think from here, if Adelaide continue on with that form, the margin will be at 6 goals or 5 goals. It just might be a bit too hard based on injuries, rotation for Port Adelaide to get back, maintain, or even then to get ahead.
Mention Horn Francis, he's in the middle. And it'll be Vicentini to go against O'Brien, who's had the better of that contest in the ruck in the first half. Vicentini jumps up, gets the tap down. Adelaide will come away, not quite. Just Vicentini toes it forward. There was an opportunity there for Laird and Crouch, and they couldn't get to it. Half forward, dragged down without the ball, said the umpire. Burn Jones with the free kick, top of the 50 for Port Adelaide. So he backs up inside the centre square and just pops it to the top of the goal square. Big numbers there. Offhand, straight to Millerer, immediately tackled, ball up.
Mark Keane again. Charlie Dixon led up at it, right behind him.
Dixon wins it down straight to Millerer though. Hinge tried to launch it out of the 50. An awful kick on the side of the boot that goes out on the 4. Was it touched? So it'll be a boundary throw in instead. 35 out as Hinge breathes a sigh of relief. Liz Walsh downstairs.
Lockie Jones has officially been subbed out of the game. The line from Port Adelaide is that he has a migraine.
I think he's got a bit more than that, to be honest. Toss back into play. Vicentini presents, but O'Brien nudges him out of the contest, takes it and hands it to Saligo. Spun around in the Drew tackle, dropped the footy. Whistle stays away. Laird coughed it up to Drew. Centering kick tumbles to Smith, who barrels his way through McEntee and kicks through the corridor for Adelaide. Coming out to meet it, McAdams slapped it to Keys, who slipped over twice. Elias Worms gets it back to Farrell. They can exit out to the broadcast wing to Vicentini.
Oh, the bounce didn't help him. He knocked it away from Laird, but immediately Crouch involved. Handballed it up to Laird, was taken high by Powell Pepper.
That's soft. That is.
And Laird had disposed of it towards Miller. Free kick in any case, because he'd hand passed it backwards. It comes back to Laird. So Laird down the ground with his kick. Straight down the line, Lear comes and meets it, rises high to take the mark. He's at left half back, broadcast side. Back down the line again, this time Powell Pepper got away easily from Laird. Cuts inside straight away, having taken the mark. Dumps it inside 50 long. Worrell back with a flight for Adelaide. Gets it to ground. Thought Hinge was pulled down without the ball, so did the umpire.
Dumb from Finlayson, dumb. Did everything, brought the ball to ground, just had to stay involved in the play. Gave away a free kick, releases the pressure.
Crows by 29 as Hinge heads to Nankervis and now switches to the right back pocket to Keane.
Free kicks 15-13 in favour of Adelaide.
Keane back to Nankervis. Joined the squad in February to returning to Ireland, formerly with Collingwood, Mark Keane, and he slotted right into this 22. Worrell now. Big kick. Long over the head of McAdam on the outer wing. Bounces up towards the logo. Charging up, a good scoop pick up from Dawson, but he's running out of room against Houston. Got a handball through the traffic to Walker. Squares his kick up towards Keys. Attacking edge. Not a lot ahead of him. He'll send it to Sloan, the sub. Kick was a little shallow. Drew nearly claimed it back with the flight. Crouch mops it up. Gives it to Dawson. From the arc. He'll head all the way home. No one was waiting back. But the kick is wide and bounces through for a minor score on the right-hand side. Adelaide up by a game-high 30 points. 8-9-57. Port 4-3-27. 3 minutes into the third.
Dawson up to 21 disposals, really threatening to break this game right apart.
Yeah, Drew's trying to go with him, but can't. Clean. His disposal, though, is just letting him down in recent time. Jordan Dawson, 52% he's going at tonight.
Farrell in short to Bergman, follows up, receives a hand pass. Along broadcast wing, high he goes. Dixon got to the front, couldn't take it away from Nankervis, who follows up. Dixon got a hand pass out, and then they sweep it through the hands. Rosie, Horne-Francis, and now Drew goes long inside 50 and high, and Finlayson got rid of his man that time way too easily. Hinge just went to ground. Finlayson took a strong mark, 25 out straight in front.
And that's probably Port Adelaide at its best, isn't it? Speed on the ball through the corridor. Finlayson just judged the flight of the footy and has taken Port Adelaide's first mark inside their forward 50 for the evening, which is a staggering stat in itself, considering Adelaide have taken 10. Must convert here to keep Port Adelaide within touch.
33 goals for Port Adelaide this season. Finlayson comes in, lays off on the kick. Lets the umpire, the goal umpire, do a little bit of work, but it's still a goal. Port Adelaide with the first of the second half. The lights flickering for them. 5-3-33 plays Adelaide 8-9-57 at the 4-minute mark of the third quarter. Rod Jamieson, Josh Franco, your experts on Grandstand AFL.
Well, only just. He just kicked it with his left and it all just snuck inside the right-hand goal post. But we're only 5 minutes into this third. But they're trying to run from behind. They're coming through the middle. Sam Powell-Pepper played on, albeit the kick was poor. They're trying to run and create. And just even that one-on-one contest, so they don't allow the Adelaide defenders just to get back and provide the numbers and run it out like they did pretty cleanly in the first half.
And it's one of those games as well. Port Adelaide kicked the first goal of this third term. The margin's only 24 points, and the doom and gloom we spoke about at half-time, next goal's critical.
Vicentini rises early, wins the tap down looking for Rosie. He was battling with Crouch, the Crow one out, but he's wrapped up by the power ruckman. Ball up to come in the square. Matt Crouch, 20 touches so far tonight. Vicentini wins it down. Butters fighting for the footy with Sloan, the two number 9s. Houston gathers. Kicks up to half forward. Nankervis juggled it in the air. Slapped away by Burne-Jones. Here's Powell-Pepper darting, weaving, heading for home from 45. It's a tumbling footy and a minor score on the right-hand side. 5-4-34 the power. The margin 23 points with Adelaide 8-9-57. 6 minutes into the third.
Just some good stats for Port Adelaide in the early stages of this third quarter. 5-1 tackle count. They got smoked in the first half. They're up by +4 in this quarter.
Adelaide at a half back now. O'Brien gets a foot to the ball. Kick-in had gone long to a pack. Fogarty picks it up. Great hand pass out to Murphy, who lost control and then gave it to Soligo eventually. He's wrapped up and a tackle twisted around. He'll be penalised surely, yes. Good tackle by Dersma. Good intent from Port Adelaide near the interchange gates.
They've got a pulse. They've got to pulse the power.
Long goes Dersma. Inside 50. Keane manages Dixon. And now Shepherd's, and at the back it was Hinge who was taking it over the boundary line. So we'll get a throw in at left half forward for Port Adelaide.
Just waiting for the rucks to sort themselves out. Dixon and O'Brien. The power ruck has front position. Neither get a tap though. Pepper trying to bust through. Couldn't control it under pressure from Sloan. Nankervis got one out to Crouch. A tumbling footy that nutmegs Dersma. At the back is Farrell though. Curling it to the top of the goal square. Marshall dropped it at the last possible moment. Back with the flight. Pulled it into his chest and slipped out. Worrell exits. Long ball to the outer side. Houston left it behind on the bounce. Dawson drops it in the tackle. Messy footy at the moment. Port Adelaide will capitalise. Butters to Boak from 45 in his 30th showdown. Can't finish. Out on the full. Free kick Adelaide.
Adelaide have got to sustain here too, and they're coming. Absolutely coming. But being a little wasteful.
So Worrell in the back pocket, in the scoreboard pocket. Runs a measure. Drives it long. Ball comes off hands to Burton. Hand pass back for Port Adelaide to Butters. Wide he goes. Williams just sinks the slipper into the pocket again. Michael Annie knocks it away and then gets a return hand pass. Gives it off to Crouch. Forward hand pass was dangerous to Pedler. Got whacked across the chops and the umpire said play on.
That has to be a free.
It was off to Marshall and now the umpire's come back and says it was a free.
Totally. And
so a little bit of afters involving Butters and Michael Annie there, and Pedler will finally take the free kick at left half back.
It was almost like a Pickett scenario in the early part of the year where Butters just jumped straight at Pedler, wanted to hip and shoulder, left the ground. Wasn't as severe, but it was definitely a free.
Pedler goes long on the outer side. O'Brien front position, nearly claimed it. May have been Thilthorpe's presence that caused him to spill the mark. Fogarty got it out though. A handball to Crouch. Sky ball sits underneath. Poor Schomburg charging and Fogarty threw his body on the line, as did Drew. Bounces out to Schomburg. Back to Smith. They clear it into the 50. Thilthorpe's outnumbered. Spilt the mark as he got away from Burton. Aliir slaps it back to McKenzie. Thilthorpe's put down behind play. It continues. Everyone stopped. McKenzie hit up Houston, who put it down under pressure from Dawson. And now a tackle is laid. Play it completely holded. 30 out from Adelaide's goal, and we're going to get a ball up.
Adelaide were unlucky on 2 occasions then.
Through came Pedler. Off the ruck contest, had to release a hand pass in the tackle. Houston picked it up, gave it to Aliir. Aliir just cleared it out of the area again. Keane able to push Dixon under the ball, but through came Powell Pepper. Oh, he was going at Nankervis and missed him. Nankervis turns the ball over. Rosie on centre wing, takes it inboard with a kick. Finlayson picks it up, hand pass blindly towards Dersma. Adelaide come the other way through. Schomburg can't handle it. On the ground, it's picked up by McEntee. Slides it inside forward 50, and good defensive mark taken by Hinge. Stood under it and took the pressure from Powell Pepper. Relief for Adelaide. They just want to steady it.
Hot contest right now. Michael Annie exits out in front of the Jack Odie stand.
Adelaide just have to be cleaner.
Finds Sloan, now up to left half forward. Walker getting rid of Aliir, nearly pulled it in with one arm. He'll receive the holding free kick anyway. That was mesmerising.
This is in his range too, Jamo.
He's already got 3 for the night, Walker. Aliir stands 55 out. Walker wants to go. Dummies around Aliir, runs to 50. The Texan loads up. This would be outstanding! Can you believe it? A preposterous finish, and Walker has 4. 16 seasons in, and one thing remains the same, Jamo. The Texan rules this town. Adelaide up by 29 points.
Charlie Curnow, 67. Taylor Walker started the game at 54. He's currently sitting second now at 58. But just the strength to be able to almost take a mark. Aliir did everything he could, but just his balance jumped in the air. Taylor Walker around on his left, and it just lit up Adelaide Oval. Liz.
Xavier Dersma's now off the ground with a blood nose that looks like it's taking some stopping. I'll keep an eye on him for you.
You ever seen a big fella kick the ball so well on his left and right? He's phenomenal, that bloke.
In the middle.
Warren Gary Treadway maybe would be the other.
Ball to ground.
Possibly.
Kicked off the ground by Pedlar wide, but through Butters. They get to half forward. Port Adelaide. Butters runs and gets Horne-Francis's handball, goes inside 50 towards the boundary line. Well roved. Rosie at the back. Head passes to the top of the square. Boak dropped it, picked it up, kicked the goal. Quick answer for Port Adelaide, badly needed. 12 down in the third quarter. It's goal for goal. Port Adelaide 6-4-40, trailing Adelaide 9-9-63.
Well, we spoke about at the start of this quarter, there's been a shift in momentum. Port Adelaide, whatever was said at half-time, they have responded, and statistically they're actually looking okay at the moment. They're +5 in the tackle count. And as we said, I think they were -20 at half-time. Adelaide absolutely dominating in terms of pressure around the footy. The inside 50s is probably the key area. And Port Adelaide, at their best, they do play the game and like to play the game in their front half. At the moment, it's 10-3 inside 50, so they're +7, and a terrific reply there. Travis Boak started the game as the sub, injected in the game at the expense of Lockie Jones. Terrific snap for goal.
Just the hit-outs too, just having a look here at the moment. Vicentini, 5, and Dixon, 2. Riley O'Brien needs to lift his game.
23-point lead to the Crows. The 3-time showdown medalist, Travis Boak, on the board. And from the ruck contest, Schomburg will wrap up Drew. We'll get a ball up just outside the circle.
Clearances, Darcy Byrne-Jones, Houston, Wines, Boak in this quarter.
O'Brien won it down, but straight down the throat of Butters. Handball wide, Houston to Wines. Under pressure, manages to get it to Horne-Francis, and Butters puts on the afterburners. Chips it over the top to Rosie. He's crunched as he takes the mark back with the flight. He'll be a little sore after that one, but he'll be able to take his set shot as Mitch Hinge stands the mark. Talk about a dynamic duo. Butters to Rosie.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're someone at the ground watching the game and you're a young midfielder that wants to go on and play AFL, come and watch Zach Butters. His work rate, his contest stuff, his ability to close the opposition's time and space. He's an outstanding player.
Game 100 for Connor Rosie, your best and fairest winner, an All-Australian showdown medalist and a leading goal kicker. Can he wind back the clock? Not enough. Touched on the line. Looked like he was about to head home, but just fell short late. 6-5-41, 22-point game. Adelaide 9-9-63, 14 minutes into the third, and they've exited to the broadcast wing.
Long kick finds Thilthorpe, took a strong mark ahead of Bergman. Bergman wanted a free kick, so did Dawson. Thilthorpe kicks down the line, and just McAdam unable to make a contest with McKenzie, who took the intercept mark quite easily for Port Adelaide. He wants some movement. There's none available. Called to play on.
Smother.
And well done by McAdam. Smothered it on the mark. Dawson picked it up straight away. Off to Schomburg inside 50. McAdam had cleared out. Comes from the side. So does Aliir. Knocks it towards the behind post and into it. And I don't think Aliir's jump did some very good things for one of his teammates.
McKenzie.
And it'll be McKenzie who's down. He's not well. And we'll quickly go down to the boundary with Liz Walsh.
I just wanted to fill you in on Xavier Dersma, who's just run back out onto the ground, but looks like he's got a lot of tissues or something shoved up his nose. So, but now I'll keep a really close eye on what goes on here.
I think McKenzie's just copped a knee, I think it was, by McAdam in that marking contest. Just
right at the sternum.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Better keep you out for a few weeks, Aaron.
It's definitely me, considering the height mismatch. Toss back into play. Clears both rucks at the back. Murphy got a handball out to Laird. Breaks away from Bergman. Walker dummies, then tumbles one to goal. It's bounced over the head of McKenzie. He just got a fingertip to it. That would have been 5. Minor score. Adelaide up by 23. 9-10. 64 plays 6-5-41. 15 minutes into the third. Over at the Docklands, Sydney by 25 points, approaching three-quarter time against Essendon.
touched on how quiet Taylor Walker's been in showdowns. 4-goal-3.
Burton with some indecision, then finally goes to the eastern side long. Off hands to Drew. Scrubs a kick just to the logo on centre wing. Pal Pepper tried to push off and was nabbed, and the umpire called play on. Now Drew on the ground trying to help out. Touched it about 4 times, tapped it back. Horn Francis broke through a couple of tacklers. One bounce on centre wing to half forward long with a kick. And standing up in the middle was Dixon for the mark. The big man with a big reach has pulled a mark down, 35 out, 45-degree angle.
The umpires missed 3 critical frees that could have gone or should have gone to Adelaide, and 2 were deep in their forward 50, and that one there on the wing. Willem Drew's just juggling it with one hand. He was held by the other, and he's just flicked it up again with his other. That's incorrect disposal.
Dixon coming in. It's a home game from the Crows, can you tell? Sends it to the pocket. O'Brien reaches up, takes a crucial intercept mark for Adelaide. And he'll bring some relief for the Crows. They lead by 29 points, or rather 22 points. 23 points. I'll get it right in a moment.
Third time's the charm, Crossy. O'Brien exits to a pack at right half back. Couple of fumbles and the ball roll over the boundary line.
They're under pressure, that's what I meant, regardless of the fact they're in front.
Fairly even quarter, though. Disposals separated by 1 as are clearances, contested possessions. So Port Adelaide have turned up in this second half. Is it too little, too late? Toss back in. O'Brien wins it down. Part of the seas between Laird and Crouch. Eventually Laird can gather as Butters goes to ground. McAdam tried to take a nice little hanger. Didn't quite get the height or the launch off the back of McKenzie. Won't matter. Schomburg at the back. Hands it to Keys. Adelaide through the broadcast wing. Keys tried to square it up. Beautifully read by Houston. Stuck an arm out. Got the intercept and finds Butters behind left half forward. He'll arc around Michael Annie and kick up to half forward. Hits Finlayson. Palpepper's alone in the 50, but he can't see him. And Finlayson instead will head for home as he turns his back on his teammates. Man on the mark, 49 out. So take a fair effort from Jeremy Finlayson, slight angle to the left.
Wonderful kick from Butters too.
Yeah.
I think he looked up, rolled on from the mark that he took from the kick that he received, and just spotted up Finlayson. Almost dropped it into a bin to find Jeremy Finlayson. Has he got the carry?
Looking for his second of the night. Finlayson gets as close as he can to the arc. It's a massive kick, but just not an accurate one. Had plenty of distance. 6-6-42. Port Adelaide trail Adelaide 9-10-64 as we approach time on in the third. Ken Hinkley, a bit stoic on the bench.
Well, Ben Keys, a let off. His work ethic and rate is incredible, but it's just that one area that lets him down. He stopped. He had all the time in the world. Just the kick inside gets smothered and away Port Adelaide go.
Interesting contrast there. The inside ball from Keys looked awkward. The inside ball from Butters was perfect. Anyway, the ball's come back in and it's out of bounds at half back for Adelaide on this broadcast side. It's come to Crouch. Hand pass over the top. Off to Schomburg. Down to half forward with his kick. Philthorpe goes for it, opposed to the smaller man in Bergman, and umpire spotted off the ball. Umpire has spotted a free kick, and it'll go to Bergman. Philthorpe reaching over his shoulder, apparently. So Bergman at left half back for the Power. Goes inboard slightly with the ball, basically down the line. And coming late, O'Brien couldn't get it away from Charlie Dixon. Powerful hands. Straight across the ground he goes with a kick. And dropping back into the space was the wingman there, Smith for Adelaide with the intercept.
He'll head out in front of the Gavin Wanganeen stand. Spots Pedler. He'll dink it over the top to Murphy. It was a sitting duck. Houston came across, slapped it out of his hands and over the boundary line. Murphy's a little sore after that one. It'll be tossed back into play. Three-quarter time at the Docklands. Sydney by 25 points over Essendon, and confirmation Lance Franklin suffered a calf injury.
Well, that's nasty.
Not good for the Swans, who are in that chasing pack on the run home, looking to get into the 8.
4 rounds to go. After this, you would have thought he'd be touch and go to finish.
Philthorpe wins it down, but Boat races away with the footy. Got it to Houston, now winds. No-look kick into the scoreboard pocket. Hidden hope for Marshall, and Worrell was all over him and slapped towards the boundary line. Hasn't been a great night for Todd Marshall.
No.
Considering the inexperience of his opponent, albeit Josh Worrell's had a magnificent season.
Just the 5 disposals for Marshall.
And hasn't touched it in this quarter.
No.
Ball comes back into play. Neither ruckman really got it. Burn-Jones snapped it towards the top of the goals. Come to ground. Adelaide have some numbers there. McEntee fishes it out, but then it's come to Miller. Had to release a hand pass. Knocked away. Comes to Smith. High ball outside defensive 50. Numbers favour Port Adelaide. Fogarty brought it to ground, and it's held in there. It's popped out. Port Adelaide will get the opportunity off Dersma. Just gave it to Miller, who then kicked it out, and Houston at left half forward can send Port back deep forward again.
Adelaide numbers everywhere in defensive 50. He'll need a lucky fall as he kicks to the top of the goal square. Coming across, Keane with the fist, just smashes it into the boundary.
And that's probably been the difference for Port Adelaide. They're able to get some pressure on the ball inside their forward 50. I think you called it, Crossy, the dump kick, which is exactly what it was. Houston set up well defensively behind the ball to re-enter inside 50 for Port.
17-4 in this third quarter inside 50s Port Adelaide.
Toss back in at the feet of both ruckmen. Evans can swarm, front and square, snaps for his third. He's been a live wire for the Power tonight, certainly keeping them in this fight. 16 points the margin. Adelaide 9-10, 64 the Power, 7-6, 48. Time on in the third on Grandstand AFL. Your experts, Rod Jamieson and Josh Franco.
And, Jano, it would be a concern for Matthew Nicks in the Adelaide coaching group in terms of the inside 50. 17-4, even though they've been efficient, they've kicked 1 goal to Adelaide. So running at 75%, they've only gone inside 54 times. And we've spoken about Port Adelaide at their best. They're able to keep maximum heat on the ball inside their forward 50s through the likes of Palpepper, Burn-Jones, those types of players, and set up well behind the footy to keep re-entering the ball and play the game in their front half, which they are currently.
And their defensive work has been better. They're matching Adelaide too in that area. Adelaide are struggling to get it out of their defensive 50 and run and create like they are. They're getting their hands on it, being fumbling.
3-1 for Port Adelaide in the third quarter. They cut the margin to 16 points after it was 29 at half-time. Out of the middle, Saligo picks it up on centre wing, taken to ground straight away by Dersma in a tackle.
So there are times where Adelaide, rather than pick it up or try and take it clean, just get it forward and keep it alive and get it 10, 15, 30 metres up the line.
Phil Thorpe knocked it down from the ruck contest. Dawson did well, tapped it up to himself and then onto the boot and gained another 25 metres down to right half forward on this broadcast side. Waiting on the boundary umpire now, just taking his time.
Almost along the crowd, Crossy, there. Maybe this anxious nervousness that Port Adelaide are right back in this fight. Adelaide home game in this showdown. Free kick in the ruck contest for a hold going Adelaide's way. Crouch will take the advantage. Gives it to Dawson into the 50. Finds Walker. Got away from Aaliyah.
Great kick.
Marks 45 out. Slight angle to the left.
He always gives you that too because Aaliyah will always just sit off you until he assesses it. He's got a bit of closing speed. Normally when the football comes in and has a bit of hang time, he'll get to the opposition. But when it's laced out like that, Jordan Dawson, you cannot do a thing as a defender.
What was the free kick for? Who was that against?
Hanging
It was holding. Was that Vicentini?
Butters, I reckon.
Oh, was it?
Was.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep, on Matt Crouch.
He's had 6 in a showdown before. Taylor Walker from outside 50 leans back on the kick. Straight as an arrow for 5. A handful for Tex. In a big game for his footy club. Their all-time leading goal scorer. He's got a fire in his belly tonight. 10-10-70 Adelaide. Port 7-6-48. 25 into the third term on Grandstand AFL.
Well, how often do you see you dominate field position, you dominate the quarter statistically inside 50s, and then just a free kick given at that stoppage? Butters v Crouch, I think it was, just releases the pressure, and as you said, you put it in the hands of the good kickers. Taylor Walker, set shot for goal. Gun barrel straight.
Port Adelaide have absolutely dominated this quarter.
Yeah.
They just haven't been able to, I guess, complete the margin. Well, the deficit was 29 points at half-time. It's currently sitting at 22.
3-2 for the quarter. Back in the middle, Vicentini reaches over the top. Laird comes in, takes the crumb for Adelaide. Drives towards half-forward, back with a fly. Dawson. Somehow it comes off hands to Houston. And then into space, the hand pass. On the ground, well done by Schonberg. Reefed it out of there. Quick hand pass. Forward goes the kick for Adelaide from Crouch. Picked up by McAdam. Laird's got it now. Received the hand pass into the pocket. And too strong, Fogarty. Took it away from McKenzie. And Fogarty will have a look at the goals from 25 out. And not the best of angles, but you'd back the man who kicks so straight.
Well, they had the numbers around the football then. Taylor Walker just sat back, allowed Rory Laird to run onto the football. Just allow him some time just to sit back and assess and put the kick in. McKenzie just lost his way, didn't he, too? And then just got footed.
Fogarty with 2 already. Comes in across the goals. Minor score. Adelaide extend to 23, the margin. 26 minutes down in this third quarter on Grandstand AFL. Showdown number 54 is everything we'd hoped it'd be.
Dylan Williams pops it short to Aaliyah. Still in defensive 50. Called to play on. He'll exit out to the broadcast side. 2-on-2 on the logo. Nankervis launches, clears him at the back wall. Hands it back to Crouch. Now Laird. Great little chain. And out wide to Saligo in space in front of the benches. He can arch the back and head towards Walker again, who marks just outside the arc. Wants to move it quickly, too quickly. Stepped off his line and kicked it straight into Aaliyah. And it ricochets over the boundary line.
I think he saw McAdam all by himself in the goal square and would have been a good kick to hit him, though. Good smother from Aaliyah, though.
Saligo could have hit Ben Keys, too, like 20-30 out. Just that short, dinky kick. He was all on his own.
Ball comes back into play. And backhand tap out, and there was holding there. It'll be a free kick to Thilthorpe in the ruck contest. Vicentini with the mistake. Thilthorpe drops it in short. Bergman behind the target in Fogarty, and the kick was overhit, so Bergman with the intercept mark, and Port Adelaide will settle late in this third term.
The execution's been poor in this quarter, Adelaide.
Long ball from Bergman. Dixon was outnumbered. Managed to favour Port Adelaide anyway as Thilthorpe's spoil hit Burn-Jones. He tumbles it up to half forward. Butters with a no-look handball to Drew. They keep trying to thrust it forward. McEntee's taken down without it, and the whistle is blown. He just grabbed the footy. The tackle lingered after he lost it. And Wayne Miller is pinged for holding the man as Jed McEntee goes back and hands it off to Rosie, who'll kick from 55. The milestone man cannot deliver when Port need him most. As we head towards three-quarter time, it's a minor score and a 22-point lead to the Adelaide Crows.
Breeze in this quarter. Adelaide 6, Port Adelaide 4.
Chase Jones to bring it in for Adelaide. Comes to this broadcast side with a long kick. Well, it didn't advantage his team. Fortunately, Williams couldn't take the mark. Port Adelaide, though, have got it forward. McEntee tried to duck a tackle, was taken down, and the umpire says, no, give it to me. Let's put the ball in the air, see where we get to. So it's Thilthorpe, and O'Brien's had an extended break from the ruck too. Vicentini comes over the top. Crouch, who's been good, gave it to Saligo. Just dumps it towards centre wing. Oh, big impact there by Fogarty, who just towed it forward after putting McKenzie down. Off it comes to Aaliyah. Back to the top of the 50 again. Ball off hands. Nankervis picked it up, or slipped the hand pass well to Saligo. Crouch involved. Then Michael Lanny goes wide, and Fogarty with a good mark. He can go. He should have been called play on by now. He has been. Right against the boundary line. Long he goes. If this gets over the back, it doesn't get that far now. It's off to Walker. Keeps it low. Straight at goal. And Tex Walker kicks another one. 6 for Walker. As we close in on three-quarter time, all the efforts of Port Adelaide have been undone in the last couple of minutes by Walker. Adelaide 11-11, 77. Port Adelaide 7-7, 49. 28 points the difference. It was 29 at half-time, and it was as little as 16 during this third quarter.
Well, just the energy that was required from Port Adelaide, and they've thrown everything at Adelaide in this quarter. They weren't able to capitalise with 4 behinds. A couple they probably should have nailed that they've missed. And then Adelaide's defence has just managed to stand up. And Luke Nankervis in that passage of play Max Michaelandi comes out, clean to the outside, then Adelaide are away.
In the middle, Vicentini wins it down. Charging onto it, Dawson, wrapped up in the Horn-Francis tackle. Tried to get it off to Saligo. Dersman knew what was coming. Gave it to Houston. Now Drew, Port Adelaide into the 50. The siren will beat them. Listen to the roar. Sold out crowd at the Adelaide Oval in Showdown 54. Predominantly in gold, red and blue. And the Crows are up by 28 points heading into the final term. A game they must win to stay in the hunt for finals. And it could do a pretty big blow to Port Adelaide's top 2 hopes. It could be on a 3-game losing streak if they don't find an answer in this final term. The goal scorers, where do we start? Maybe with Taylor Walker. 6 for the night. Equals a career best in showdowns. And he's one away from matching some very elite company. Tony Modra, Peter Vardy and Warren Treadray for the most ever in a showdown. So 6 to Tex, 2 to Fogarty, singles to McAdam, Murphy and Keys for Port Adelaide, 3 to Evans, and singles to Dixon, Finlayson, Boak and Dersma. Plenty still to come. 5-goal game here at the Adelaide Oval on ABC Radio, Sport Digital and the Listen app. This is Grandstand AFL.
Hello, I'm Patrick Stack, and if you like great stories and you enjoy sport, then I reckon you need ABC Sport Daily in your life.
This is a very competitive marketplace. The attention economy.
Well, he's got a perfect PGA Tour player name. Those are the ones we sort of joke about here. The American PGA Tour players sound like that.
That was the time to take the new ball.
Josh Franco, who's a part of our coverage, said if the grand final was tomorrow, I wouldn't bet against Port.
It's a daily sports conversation and it's called ABC Sport Daily. Find us on the ABC Listen app.
Grandstand AFL.
Now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
Sloan now up to left half forward. Walker getting rid of Aaliyah. Nearly pulled it in with one arm. Who received the holding free kick anyway. That was mesmerising. Walker wants to go. Dummies around Aaliyah. Runs to 50. The Texan loads up. This would be outstanding. A preposterous finish.
Gets Horn-Francis's handball. Goes inside 50 towards the boundary line. Well rode. Rosie at the back. Hand passes to the top of the square. Boat dropped it. Picked it up. Kicked the goal. Quick answer for Port Adelaide, badly needed.
Toss back in at the feet of both ruckmen. Evans can swarm, front and square, snaps for his third. He's been a live wire for the Power tonight, certainly keeping them in this fight. Free kick in the ruck contest for a hold going Adelaide's way. Kraft to take the advantage, gives it to Dawson, into the 50, finds Walker. Got away from Aaliyah. Taylor Walker from outside 50 leans back on the kick. Straight as an arrow for 5.
Right against the boundary line. Long he goes. If this gets over the track, it doesn't get that far now. It's off to Walker. Keeps it low. Straight at goal. And Tex Walker kicks another one. 6 for Walker.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
And now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
Taylor Walker is taking over Showdown 54. 6 goals to his name. One of the Showdown medal voters is in the box tonight. I won't name who, but I have a feeling I might know where he's going. Taylor Walker absolutely dominant and heading towards what would be an equal best ever in a Showdown if he can kick his 7th in the final term.
Dawson.
What's that?
Dawson.
Dawson 3 votes. No, we're not going back to round 3 again, Crossy. No, we're getting around. Adelaide up by 28 points heading into the final term. 11-11-77 to the Power. 7-7-49. Aaron Bryans and Neil Cross with you. Your experts. The most ever Brownlow votes in Showdown history, wow. Josh Franco. And the man with the most replayed moment from the inaugural Showdown, Rod Jamison. There you go.
I've got a front
I changed it up.
I don't know if I ever saw it this week, actually.
I'm surprised. It's burnt in my memory. Anyway,
thoughts heading into the final term.
The stats that matter, inside 50s, 21-8, so plus 13. That's Port Adelaide's way. They did, and they were able to swing momentum early in that quarter, but the efficiency inside 50, Port Adelaide kicked 3 goals 4 to Adelaide's 3 goals 3, was that man Taylor Walker kicking 3 goals 1. So they only went inside 50 8 times for 6 shots. That's probably the difference. Even though Port Adelaide dominated in terms of statistically inside 50s, time in forward half, time in possession, Adelaide were able to hang in there and keep that margin at an arm's length.
I think you just see better from Port Adelaide when they go forward normally up to this particular game, but they're just, the footy's coming out by Adelaide, they're coming around the boundary, but they're just bombing it with the pressure that Adelaide are applying when it does sit outside. that defensive 50 or across the centre of the ground. Adelaide are just getting to Port Adelaide and shutting them down. Port Adelaide start to get on top a little bit around the ground. The centre clearances in that particular quarter, 28-18, the stoppage clearance work. So Adelaide still clearly on top. Again, I just keep going back. It's still 28. I don't feel it's enough, but I think Port Adelaide just threw a big couple of haymakers in that quarter and weren't able to knock Adelaide out at the time. So the energy that they have used in that third quarter is a big opportunity here for Adelaide to really kick away, not riding Port Adelaide off yet.
Much the same as you in showdown number one, threw a bunch of haymakers without really
there was
connecting.
a couple that did okay.
So Adelaide lost 3 in a row. Port Adelaide lost 2 in a row. They're past 2 in a row, but this match, this is final standard.
Oh, it's huge. Absolutely it is. Absolutely.
Let's check in with Liz downstairs.
Something that was interesting to note during that third term was that Crows defender Jordan Butts did not actually come back from the rooms and sit on the bench. By comparison, Lockie Jones for Port was sitting on the bench and he was subbed out with the migraine. So, look, my understanding down here is that there is actually concern inside the Crows camp that Jordan Butts has broken his right foot. He will definitely need scans. But yeah, just interesting to note, he's not out here on the benches.
Yeah, that'll be another big blow if that happens to be the case. James Borley sitting in the wings, who was close, so I think, to selection. He's been tremendous in the SANFL, but the depth is being tested.
On the run home to finals as well, which if they can get over the line will certainly be a possibility, and Adelaide is starting to lose some depth in a key position. Murray out, Duday out, and Butts could be long-term as well.
Well, it just all depends too how, what his pain tolerance is at. Do you get a go and see the doctor and he can help you through to the end of the year.
Crows by 28 points, living in the now for showdown 54, but the Power get the first clearance. Butters off a step up towards Pal Pepper, bounced off him under pressure from Miller to the outer side. Crouch went to ground, battling against Wines. Butters put his head over it and Miller kindly stepped aside to ensure there wasn't any injury. Won't matter. Adelaide get the exit. Crouch up towards McAdam, hands it over the top to Miller, attacking edge, spears it into the 50, beautiful kick, and finds who else? Taylor Walker, straight in front, 35 out, this could be 7.
Well, I watched what was happening behind the play there, and the ball was out, obviously in the middle of the ground in the scramble, and it looked like Aliir just got caught ball watching and drifting. In the end, he handed over, he went to McAdam, couldn't close that. Bergman went to Walker. And again, with no pressure on the ball, it was just an easy connect inside forward 50. These are bread and butter for Taylor Walker, these shots on goal.
Taylor Walker to equal the most goals ever in a showdown. Superb finish. It's been a Taylor Walker masterclass. And with season 17 on the horizon, the Texans just getting started. Adelaide by 34 points to start the final term on Grandstand AFL.
Talk about a masterclass. Tex Walker, unbelievable in terms of his impact on the game. See who's winding back the clock is Matt Crouch. 29 disposals, 90% disposal efficiency. He's been superb.
Well, in that passage of play, wasn't it? It was from the centre clearance. It's gone out twice, second time. Wayne Miller probably had it on 3 occasions. I guess the difference there was that he kept his feet. And he was standing Sam Powell-Pepper. Sam Powell-Pepper still well behind. I think in the end it might have been Xavier Dersman was trying to run him down, and he's just delivered to Taylor Walker.
Matt Crouch, just as important, 333 metres gained out of the middle. Oh, a high tackle on Butters. I thought he was taken down cleanly by Laird, but it's a free kick to Butters. Play on. Off to Houston quickly by hand, and then long kick inside 50. Ball comes to ground. Rosie's outside. Finlayson got it near him. Ball on the ground though. He couldn't handle it. And it was Finlayson who got it forward. Then to Marshall. Tried to find Wines. And Wines has kicked a goal, I think. It's just inside the goalpost. Yes. It was a scrubby kick, but nonetheless effective. So an answering goal for Port Adelaide early in this final quarter. 2.5 minutes down. There's still a little bit of a pulse. 8-7-55. Adelaide 12-11-83.
You just sense, that was probably another classic example. Every goal tonight that Port Adelaide have attempted to kick has just been hard work, hasn't it? Nothing's been really clean other than, I guess, a couple of marks inside 50 and shots on goal, but everything has just been laboured and manufactured on that occasion. Even though they finished off with a nice goal, it was just clunky and it was hard. But they'll take it, Port Adelaide.
It's getting close at the Docklands. Swans by 9 over the Bombers, approaching time on in the final term.
Who'd you pick?
I had Essendon.
Oh, there's plenty of time.
Adelaide by 28 here in the final term. Vicentini wins it down. Sloan at the fall of the footy, broke away from Horne-Francis, gets it to Crouch. Now Dawson shrugs off a couple of tackles, arches the back, heads to half forward. Walker claiming he was kept out of it as it bounces to ground. He'll get it anyway. Schomburg thrusts it to him. Taylor Walker for 8! He's hit the post. He's got the ball on a string tonight. You just know it's coming. Adelaide by 29 points, and Port Adelaide won't waste any time as they exit to the broadcast wing, and Dixon not paid the mark in the middle of the pack. Adelaide will get another chance, but they've squandered it as Nankervis catches the wrong side of his boot and it rolls over the boundary line.
Luke Nankervis, just that dinky kick, trying to find Lockie Murphy. Difficult, but Charlie Dixon and Mark Keane, he's probably just out-muscled Mark Keane on the last 2 or 3 marking contests.
So Walker was off and running to celebrate what he thought was a goal. Maybe he'll get another chance. Again, inside 50 goes Adelaide through Millerer. Fogarty was the man. Bergman picks it up, though, after Fogarty couldn't handle the half volley. Gave it off and then down the line. Interesting kick by Boak, and just inside the boundary taken by Butters.
Brave.
Looks inboard straight away. It was Brave and he turned it over. He was looking for Horne-Francis and found Dawson for Adelaide. Right at centre half forward, Schomburg. Schomburg inside 50, missed the open man in Fogarty. Again, Aliir had sagged off, but this time he gets the advantage. Drops it out wide, Dersma with the mark.
On the 45, up to centre half back, he finds Marshall. He'll switch to the broadcast wing to Boak.
Smashing it in the SNFL, Schoenberg, but a handball to Mitch Hinge would have been on. Gone in the middle again, another turnover.
Very dangerous kick inside from Boak, and he's coughed it up. Adelaide had the numbers at the fall of the footy. Hinge spots Walker, hits him at the top of the goal square. Taylor Walker plays on unselfishly, curls it to Keys, who can dribble it home for his second. In a night all about Tex, he's done the most unselfish thing he could and essentially hand the dagger to Ben Keys. Meanwhile, there's been an umpire go down behind play, I reckon, Crossy.
It was, yeah.
It was Ben Keys, yeah.
Razor Ray's gone down.
Poleaxed into him. Razor Ray's on a couple of tumbles.
He's hammed it up a bit, though, old Razor. I had a look at it. Wasn't much
just
in
a little proppy, but he's okay.
He didn't hit him hard enough.
Nah.
Adelaide by 35 points. 13-12-90 to the power. 8-7-55. Is that the moment that ends Port Adelaide's night?
It might have been all that extra hair on his head.
Did you say he didn't hit him hard enough? Wow.
I can't remember. I might need to date stamp that too, by the way.
Yeah.
Concussion.
Back in the middle. Adelaide almost with a chance. No, Sloan has just socketed it towards Keys. Keys with a brilliant pick-up and then a hand pass to Laird. Wide to Saligo. Inside 50 again. Fogarty got hands to it, couldn't take it. McAdam picked it up. Hand pass to Pedler. Slides home another one. Oh, Adelaide. They are crushing it now. 14-12-96. Port Adelaide 8-7-55. 6 minutes down in the final quarter. 3 goals to 1 in this final term to Adelaide. And they have a magnificent advantage to talk about in the final quarter.
Well, it's all Adelaide, isn't it, Jamo? We spoke about at 3/4 time, Port Adelaide in that third quarter through the kitchen sink at the Crows. They held fast, and now they've got absolute momentum and total control of this contest, and just highlighted by some of the numbers. The disposal count to this point in the quarter, 28-15, the marks inside 50. That's been a problem for Port Adelaide all game. It's now 3 this quarter to the Crows. You know, the clearance count, they're +1, but probably the big one's the inside 50, 6-1, +5 Adelaide's way. This is the stage, Port Adelaide. This margin keeps blowing out, could do huge amount of damage to their confidence.
In the middle, Sloan slides into the footy. Rosie wraps him up. Ball up to come.
If it hasn't already.
O'Brien battling with Dixon down. Houston gets the footy. Lost it in the tackle. Dropped it. no whistle. Dixon picks it up and hands it to Butters. Under pressure, he skies it back to the centre circle. Miller uses the body to get rid of Wines and take the intercept mark.
He has been so good tonight.
Miller goes long into the 50, charging out Fogarty and Thilthorpe. Aaliyah at best, though. He didn't launch himself like the two forwards and takes the intercept mark at the back. Adelaide by 41 points.
So Aaliyah with nobody on the mark goes wide, and Dixon pulls down a good mark ahead of O'Brien. Quick hand pass off from centre wing, and Drew goes inside half forward with his kick. Worrell did well, just got ahead of his opponent in Marshall, knocked it over the line. Umpire said insufficient intent.
That is ridiculous.
Marshall quickly moves it on. Top of the goal square looking for Finlayson. Ball off hands. Two Adelaide defenders there knock it through for the minus score. It's a 40-point margin in favour of Adelaide. The other thing that it's doing some damage to this game tonight is the percentage of Port Adelaide.
Just the balance of that decision then too, just for our listeners. Like, he's a defender. He gets to the contest. He actually gets his fist to it and spoils it away and gets penalised for it.
Chase Jones exit to left half back, but Dixon did well on the pack to claim the mark. Too far out to score. And Adelaide has flooded back. He'll set it up, right forward pocket. O'Brien floats across Palpepper. Slips through both hands, and Evans has escorted over by Nankervis. Right forward pocket, Riverbank stand ends.
Love the crowd.
Getting stuck into the power. 50,023 in attendance, which will be the biggest crowd we've had this season at the Adelaide Oval. Toss back into play. O'Brien wins it down to Miller. Exiting kick out of the 50 to the square. Fogarty wrapped up with Aaliyah, then held his arm as well. Whistle stays away. Vicentini turns straight into a wall. Pedler brought him down despite the mismatch. Ball up to come.
Dante Vicentini, as I mentioned a couple of times, it's been hell for him. So O'Brien with a tap away. Sloane couldn't get it. Houston picked it up for Port Adelaide. Gave it off to Rosie. Forward hand pass and closed down quickly was Dersma. Well done by Laird. Forced the error. Picked up by Smith. Down the line he goes with a kick and out of bounds near the interchange gates. What does the umpire think? He says, no, that was fair enough. He tried to keep it in. Again, that tackling pressure from Adelaide continues as we close in on 10 minutes, 11 minutes in this final term.
40 points the margin.
Still plenty of time remaining, over 14 minutes.
Toss back in. O'Brien wins it down. Bounce past Palpepper. Horne-Francis was waiting. Kicks around the body. A rolling ball up in front of Evans. He's battling with Nankervis, and McEntee's pushed over by Michael Lanny. Boundary throw in to come behind right half forward for the Power. And the votes are in from Josh Franco. We'll wait and see if they're in unison after round 3, where everyone was different. Toss back into play.
Too easy.
Vicentini won it down. Dawson was there in the crumb. Wines wraps him up for a ball up just forward of centre wing broadcast side. Over at the Docklands, Sydney by 7, dying stages against Essendon. Off the ruck contest, Keys threw it out in the tackle from Wines. Free kick to go Port Adelaide's way.
Wines inboard with a hand pass to Horne-Francis. Lovely little step around Keys, and then inside 50 he goes. Adelaide with the answers. Punch down found Miller up, just clears the area. Off Horne-Francis, it went to Jordan Dawson, and he got it to Smith, got the kick away, and then Wines. Hand pass quickly. Turning so quickly was Rosie after receiving a hand pass, and then inside 50 he goes. And Miller takes another intercept mark. Coming into his best form is Wayne Miller.
It's like playing Novak Djokovic at the minute, isn't he? He's just a brick wall. Kick it in. Miller just returns it.
Gave it off to Smith down the line. Thilthorpe did well at the back, and then errant kick. He was looking for Walker. Almost half volleyed it, then lost it. Thilthorpe had followed up. Gave a hand pass forward to Fogarty, and inside 50, the easiest of kicks. He went slightly across into the corridor, and Pedler has the mark. 35 out, bang in front.
I just think Port Adelaide, they just got caught forward, didn't they, Adelaide? It was a bit of a scrap just to move it forward. Clean, half volleys, number of options.
Adelaide's 16th mark inside their forward 50.
Yeah.
16 for the game.
Again, it's 14 points. as Pedler.
The Glenelg boy comes in and seals the deal surely for Adelaide. There's no coming back from Port Adelaide. The Crows move past the 100 mark at the Adelaide Oval. 15-12-102. Plays Port Adelaide 8-8-56. We're at the 13-minute mark of the final quarter, and showdown 54 belongs to the Crows.
And just looking at some of the overall stats that matter. So the inside 50s, it's 58-48 Port Adelaide's way, believe it or not. So they're plus 10, probably off the back of that third quarter. But you look at the tackle count, Adelaide are plus 16. You look at the contested ball count, they're plus 16 as well. The clearance count, they're plus 8. They've absolutely obliterated Port Adelaide. And they've scored 27 times for 48 inside 50s. Huge numbers.
It's a matter of the margin now. 46 points. Nice high bounce in the middle. Both rocks stay down. O'Brien wins it on Francis, immediately wrapped up by Schonberg.
Get a ball Essendon, Aaron.
2-point lead. Bombers have clawed another back in the dying stages. I will not be offended if you jump on the Listen app and switch over. Menzies kicked it.
Stop that.
Port Adelaide lose the ruck contest. Adelaide kick it into the 50, but Mackenzie sliding in takes the intercept mark. It's only for a couple of minutes, Jamo. They'll come back. Mackenzie pops it to Evans. It's the glory of the app. You can do whatever you want. Up to half forward, presenting Marshall. True centre half forward, just inside the square. Had Farrell running behind. Didn't even hear him. Marshall has no idea what to do.
I can't see where it is at Docklands, but there's only 6 seconds remaining.
Deer in the headlights. Marshall pops it up. Big double fist from Worrell. Saligo with the check side to keep it in play. Probably should have just let it go out because he's given it to Evans. On the paint of 50, tight angle. He's got 3 for the night so far.
6 seconds. Centre bounce. 6 seconds remaining.
Jamo, pay attention.
Well, we can tell them so they don't have to turn over.
Francis Evans, his set shot from 50. Meanwhile, Mills lays a tackle to hold things up, and Sydney have won by 2 points as Evans pops it short into the right forward pocket. Little wider, little closer to Jeremy Finlayson. He wants to run around, but Razor Ray wasn't having it. This is actually has to realign him.
He's going to snap that from 45 metres.
He understands that time is against the power. Finlayson snaps. Didn't open the angle enough, and it's a minor score on the right-hand side.
I don't get that.
It is crazy. Like he's got a
left footer.
And he's got a ripping kick.
Yeah.
45-point game. Adelaide 15-12-102. The power 8-9-57.
Long kick in. And off the hands it comes to Schonberg. Wide to Saligo. Non-preferred left foot was good. Straight to Murphy. Just near the interchange gates, about 10 metres infield. Called to play on now. Steps back to his left foot. Hand pass to Saligo. Thinks about down the line. Forced to kick around the corner. Aaliyah is standing there and jumping over the top is Fogarty. Fogarty says, I can spot up Rory Sloane. Unbelievable. Sloane marks it on the head of Boak. So the two substitutes, with between them 593 games of experience prior to tonight. And Sloane wins the battle. Uppy, where he hasn't been up that far. He was almost up, down, and standing on the ground by the time he took a chest mark.
That was almost like Warwick Kappa. That was like hands on the shoulders. Up he went. Thought he went way too early.
Well, he did, but nobody cares. At the end of the day, another goal for Adelaide, more forward efficiency, and the most unlikely high-flying forward, Rory Sloane with a goal. 16-12-108 Adelaide. Port Adelaide 8-9-57, 17 minutes into the final quarter. Your experts on Grandstand, it's Rod Jamieson and Josh Franco.
I was going to say, Jamo, that's as pretty of a specky as you're going to get from a 33-year-old. I reckon it was ugly, but it was exciting.
And it was over the other 34 or 35-year-old as well in Travis Boak. Marshall tried to get back, but well done, Rory Sloane.
But even going back to Finlayson's snap-on goal when he's on the right side for a left footer, to snap it from 45 metres out, I just don't understand it.
51-point margin. Dixon in the ruck. Stayed down. O'Brien launches and taps it straight to Butters. Hands it to Drew. Now Dixon shanks it. Side of the boot. Spiral up to right half forward. Coming out to meet it is Nankervis for the Crows. Tried to break through the square and under pressure has coughed it up to Dixon. He gives it to Drew. Now winds. Nice little chain ends with McEntee. Butters on the arc. Tight angle. He centres his kick to Evans. One of their better players tonight. The former Cat will have a set shot. He realises they're running out of time, so he'll dart back with the man on the mark. 30 out.
Look at Luke Nankervis. He looks like Terry Saxby Joyner.
Big cramps.
Like
he's hobbling off.
He might not get the red card, but...
That's a marathon walk effort, I reckon. Gold for Nankervis. Evans, meanwhile, trots in. Will kick from 40. Excellent finish. To claw on back for the power. He's got 4 for the night. Margin is 45 points. Liz Walsh downstairs.
Bit of a concern for Port down here with Dante Vicentini. His second AFL game could be taking its toll. He currently has 2 or 3 trainers around him. They were working on his hamstrings. Now they're working on his quads. The doctor's talking to him as well. Mitch Hinge had a bit of trouble getting back on the ground just then too. He couldn't find his mouth guard, but he's back out there, so I assume he found it.
I guess the irony too, Luke Nankervis also in his second game, just struggling with the rigours and the intensity that you have to, so that will take time. But I really enjoyed Max Michaelani on that occasion too. Like, he anticipated the handball came out to Butters. Butters, I would have thought, had he not approached him in the manner that he did, he would have had a shot on goal. But Zach Butters, just a star, just to find his teammate.
Adelaide coming up for their 9th win of the season as the bounce gets recalled in the middle. They have only 1 win away from the Adelaide Oval this season, a 3-point win over Hawthorn in Launceston in round 6. The rest has been here, and the crowd very much has enjoyed this victory, or at least they will when the final siren goes. So after the secondary bounce ball held in by the midfielders, Butters over it, Laird over him. Another throw in the air. Dixon tries to take it away, loses it. And they try to go forward with the kick, and we've got a couple of pitch invaders. That's the problem. And so they'll be taken care of. There's only one of them, in fact. I thought there might have been 2, but there's only one, but they've been taken care of, and we've stopped play in the middle of the ground. And it beggars belief that you'd want to do that, but of course it takes you to get sufficient courage. It takes you until the 20-minute mark of the final term.
The security certainly gave it to him because they slid him with the knee in the back and really roughed it up.
Well, now there's 4 holding him down, but seriously.
Might get some tribunal action on the security people.
Possibly.
I've got a feeling there was one last showdown as well, early in the year.
Yeah.
I think this is the second one.
Well, he's not going to see the end of this match, that's for sure.
No.
Or many more.
No.
And that's the sort of thing where you just, ultimately, is he a general admission or is he a member of either club? Sort it out, work it out, boot him out. Games missed, plus the fine they took up. I think it's a $5,000 fine.
Just a little side note on the margin. So 45 points at the moment. Port Adelaide's percentage has taken a pretty dramatic hit, and it's nearly 20% behind Brisbane, who are a game behind them.
Yep.
Makes that win by the Gold Coast 41-point win over Brisbane earlier this afternoon even more important in terms of the makeup of the ladder. Port Adelaide will stay second on the ladder. But as they say, is this an event or is it a trend? They've now lost 3 in a row after winning 13 straight. So the action's underway again, and Adelaide's taken possession, and Rory Sloane, the mark out on the eastern side, he was chipped the ball by Chase Jones. Well, Sloane goes down the line and Hinge with the mark.
Much easier, Crossy, too. They've got Geelong, albeit got beaten today by Freo. Then they've got GWS, who are 7 in a row. And then Fremantle, then to finish off Richmond. So they've certainly got 2 tough games, you would think.
Sloane has the footy. Centre wing called to play on. He keeps it tight on the boundary and out on the full in the end as he tried to hit up Murphy and just marked over the line. So free kick to Farrell. He's at left half back. Ball wasn't exactly delivered straight back to him, but the Crows fans will stay silent on that one. 50,000 in the house for Showdown 54, and they've got exactly what they wanted. Farrell. Long back up the outer wing. Dixon got rid of Keane. A rare win tonight considering the Irishman's probably had his number. Got it off to Butters. Then Houston heads into the 50 for the power. Michael Annie launched, as did Hinge. Ricocheted off and the volley exit works. Fogarty takes the mark.
In the middle.
On the 45, here come the Crows. Dawson, the skipper. No one's on the mark. He can go. Tucks in the footy and then looks wide to Smith. He'll play on as well. Nice little hook kick Flared it up towards Pedler. On the boundary line, left half forward. Where's Tex? All eyes on the man who has 7. Pedler will go back to Smith. Now to the top of the goal square. Charging across Fogarty. Brought it to ground. Murphy back to Fogarty. Can't get away from Rosie, who's dropped down in the tackle. May have caught one right in the knee. Free kick holding the ball. Burton will take it. And Rosie's very proppy.
Just like to see Darcy Fogarty win a couple of easy balls. He's got to work hard for it.
Burton goes high, back to centre wing, the logo there. Ball knocked down to the ground. Picked up by Smith, immediately claimed in a tackle. Ball up. Liz Walsh on the boundary. You enjoying this yet?
Yeah, it's lots of fun, and all the Crow supporters are loving it down here too. But unfortunately for Miles Bergman, he's not loving the game. He has just had ice put around his middle, so I imagine his groin, and his night is done.
So Adelaide take it off the contest, and it was Laird who was forced to release the ball near the boundary, though they work it again through the hands. It's ended with Dawson, and fortunately that wasn't a match-winning kick at goal. It was a way to the left for the minor score. Adelaide extend the margin, and they're out to 46 points. And this is just junk time in so many ways, but so important for both clubs. Adelaide could do with the percentage, and Port Adelaide could do with reducing that percentage loss.
Well, they've gone end-to-end here, the power out of the defensive kick, but Finlayson can't cap it off with an inside 50. His kick's smothered, and over the boundary line, Mark Keane again. Excellent on debut for the Crows. Considering Jordan Butts may be out long-term with a broken ankle, Nick Murray's gone with an ACL, Tom Duday as well. Mark Keane has stood up in a massive game. O'Brien wins it down. At the bootlaces of Saligo. Picked up by Farrell for the power. Got it to Rosie. He'll kick into the 50. McEntee coming late. Nearly took it. Schomburg gets a handball out on hands and knees to Millerer. Exiting kick. Farrell flew. Didn't favour him. Keys at the back. Slaps it to Murphy. Down through the line. He hits up the sliding McAdam rather. McAdam over the top. Keys behind right half forward. He's got Dawson central if he wants him. Instead, Keys will head into the scoreboard pocket. Walker's got a run at it. Spoiled by Aaliyah, the party pooper. Houston exits to the outer side. Coming across Murphy with the fist. Charging in McEntee. Got it out to Rosie. Here come the power.
Off the left foot, Farrell goes long and high towards half back. Ball comes off hands. Keane first to recover. Just tapping it towards the line off. Finlayson got it away from him. Tumble the left foot, kick towards the goal. Great kick, no, sliding across. The Jew didn't help him. So the minor score for Finlayson, 45 the margin. Adelaide straight away through. Hinge coming out to this broadcast side. Pedler running on, taking the mark. Holds it up down the line. Sloane still full of run. He was the substitute tonight. And the veteran gets applause for every time he touches the ball at the moment. The veteran, who is such a great, honest player, has been for many years for Adelaide, down the line with his kick.
And cut off with an intercept mark in the pack. Houston floating across O'Brien. Didn't matter about the height mismatch, he got the launch.
It's the poor kick, really, that one down the line.
Houston heads towards the square. Palpepper presenting over the back. Nankervis nearly pulled it in. He'll gather on the bounce anyway. Gets it to Millerer. Sloane. And now Saligo charges through the circle. Pops it over the top. Keys crunched coming out. And a free kick will go his way. McKenzie the offender. Keys doesn't waste any time. Plays on around the man on the mark. Heads to Thilthorpe. Got the launch. And marks over the head of Burton. 35 out. Slight angle to the left.
With just over 3 minutes remaining, if you could nail this, you would have thought 50, probably 10 goals. It's just been that type of game where I felt that Adelaide are miles ahead.
Yep.
But just haven't been able to nail it, I think, to the extent that they would have liked, albeit the margin is still going to be sizable.
Percentage will matter in the run home. Riley Thilthorpe goalless last week. Leans back on the kick. And can't join the party tonight. Minor score on the left-hand side. As his drought continues. Adelaide up by 46 once again as we're trading behinds. 16-14, 110 to 9-10, 64. Still a couple of minutes to go in Showdown 54.
So the power bringing the ball back in through Farrell. Long and high he went. It's knocked out of bounds. at right half back on this broadcast side for Port Adelaide. They've been overrunning the clearances in the clinches, and just overall, Adelaide's had all the answers. Vicentini comes to the front that time, got it away from the ruck contest, but only just. Wines stood up in a tackle, got a good hand pass out towards Butters, who then got a 1-2 with Dersma, but it was all forced, and then just getting his kick away. Evans inside forward 50, and it's Horne-Francis who leads up. He's been stationed at full forward a couple of times tonight, and that time he was able to lead up and take it. So he's 45-degree angle, and his direct opponent Hinge on the mark is about 40 metres out.
Just one of the power midfielders that just hasn't done enough, hasn't carried enough of the load to help his fellow midfielders get control of this game. He's ended up, I think he's lining up for his 16th disposal, but just hasn't had the impact that we know that Horne-Francis can have.
Runs straight, kicks her just to the right. So the minor score, as Aaron just said, trading behinds at the moment. Horne-Francis has one for Port Adelaide, and we're back to 45 the margin as we close in on the end of showdown 54, 29 minutes in.
Horne-Francis had 4 touches in the third and has only had the 3 in the last.
Worrell with a nice exit to right half back to Sloane. The Crows seem to understand the significance and the record on the line here for Taylor Walker. They're racing through the corridor. Beautiful delivery. Worrell up to half forward to Dawson. Wheels around. Thilthorpe in the pocket. Left all alone. He'll take the uncontested mark and have a shot on goal from 25 out. 45-degree angle to the right.
Half-hearted lead by Walker too.
Oh, he had a couple of options. If he had been quick enough, he could have gone to him, or I think it might have even been Shane McAdam.
Gave one off earlier tonight, Taylor Walker, when he could have had his 8th to Ben Keys. He's a former skipper, voted the best skipper in the league by the Players Association.
2 years.
So certainly a team player. And Riley Thilthorpe gets another go. This one's carrying left and he's missed it again. Another behind. We've had end-to-end 5 behinds now. 46-point margin, 16-15, 111 to 9-11-65. Port Adelaide goes straight up the spine.
Knocked down by Finlayson. Rosie in game number 100. He won't fondly remember this. It was all set up for him, and that came off the side of the boot. Intercept by O'Brien. Adelaide away again, down to half forward. Saligo, he's done well tonight. He's returned to the side. Inside 50 he goes. And Schonberg has the mark. He's 45 from goal. Walker was running, and he... Schonberg said, no, I'm not in a position to make the kick, sorry. So the siren, and it's only a case of the margin. Walker's going to be stranded on 7 goals, but it's not a bad thing to be stranded on. Adelaide's margin is 46 at the moment. Schonberg with a chance to take it beyond 50. He pulls it now to the near side. And so it's a 47-point performance by Adelaide. Their 4th win against a top 8 side, and Port Adelaide's chances this season have taken a bit of a battering.
Australia, and we're known as the Adelaide Crows. We're courageous, stronger, faster, and respected by our foes. Admiration of the nation, our determination shows. We're the pride of South Australia, we're the mighty Adelaide Crows.
It felt like Adelaide's night from the get-go. They led by 12 at quarter time, 29 at the half, 28 at three-quarter time, and ultimately winners by 48 points, 16-16, 112 to 9-11-65. Taylor Walker finished with 7 goals, the most ever in a showdown, alongside Tony Modra, Peter Vardy and Warren Treadway. Adelaide's season has a pulse, and Port Adelaide's, it's teetering dangerously in the top 2. The Crows remain the kings of South Australia as they sweep the power in 2023. 50,000 in the house. And Matthew Nix's men delivered. Still a tough run to come from here, but they're well and truly in the hunt. And if you rank the ladder by percentage, they're actually the 6th best team right now, Adelaide. But they'll find themselves, as of tonight, a game out of the 8 with 4 to come. Plenty still to play in season 2023. And for Ken Hinkley, 3 losses in a row with Geelong at Cardinia Park to come. It's not the run home that you'd want heading into a finals campaign. Rod Jamieson, Josh Franco, your thoughts?
Well, I think Ken Hinkley, focusing on Port for the minute, it would be scratching his head. And I don't know what the numbers are, but it just seems like when Port Adelaide lose, other than last week against Collingwood, they lose big. And when the floodgates open, they really open, which is a real concern, no doubt, for Ken Hinkley and his coaching staff. But on the other side of the coin, gee whiz, Adelaide, you come and watch that. If you didn't know form for the year, you'd say, you know, if this mob can get in the finals and sneak in, they can do some damage because they play a brilliant brand of footy.
I think everyone that actually comes up, I mean, they are one of the best defensive teams in the competition. They're just at it. They close you down really quickly. And how often we constantly say in these games, regardless of where they are on the ladder, aren't they? They just find a way. The opposition where you don't think. And I genuinely thought that Port Adelaide would win. But again, because of a couple of selection issues where I felt there would be big holes, I thought Adelaide, and then to the advantage when they actually lose Lockie Jones as well, and Alir in that contest too, it was always going to make it a little bit more challenging. But Adelaide from the outset just looked clean and sharper and used the football better and just run, supported. Again, I just have that knock on them that the game should have been iced at half-time. In the end, it's a tremendous win up against a team that's sitting second on the ladder.
Some breaking news before we head down to the presentations. The Showdown Trophy is out there. The Bonds have dropped their case against the Crows and the POW. So everything's been settled, and the Showdown Trophy will be presented at the conclusion here of Showdown 54. Just on those margins as well, Josh, for the POW, they've lost by 71, 31, 50, and now 48. Their only close game was the Collingwood one last week. So there's been some big losses this year.
And you talk about Adelaide defensively are very solid. Their losses have been quite small in contrast. So even, obviously last week, but even throughout the course of the season when they've lost, they've always hung in there and been competitive. But that's the real concern for Port Adelaide at the moment.
But Port Adelaide won 7 games under 2 or 3 goals as well. So they, when it does get tight and when the contest is there, they have shown that they've been able to scrap it out. But, I can't recall the last time without the numbers in front of me. Showdown 54, it now goes 27 apiece.
Let's head downstairs for the post-match presentation.
Now that we present the Variety Showdown Shield and Showdown Medal. Variety, the children's charity of South Australia, has joined with both the Adelaide Football Club and the Port Adelaide Football Club to help make a greater impact on the lives of local children in need. This partnership sees both clubs compete to hold up the prestigious Variety Showdown Shield. Tonight, the Showdown Medal will be presented to the player judged best afield. We're joined by Variety Scholarship participant Ethan Hunter and Variety SA Deputy Chair Sally Pake to present tonight's Showdown Medal and Showdown Shield. And the winner of the Showdown Medal is Taylor Walker.
Texas' 22nd Showdown, his first ever Showdown Medal. Adds to an illustrious career, the former skipper, a 6-time leading goal kicker, a 2-time AFLPA best captain, and tonight the most ever goals in a showdown with 7 alongside Modra, Vardy and Shredra.
Firstly, thank you to Port. You've been amazing this year. It's been awesome to watch you play some good footy. To Variety, thank you for putting this on. You're an amazing sponsor of the Showdown. To 50,000 people, thank you so much for coming out. And it's kept our finals chance alive. Let's go, Crows.
Well done, Taylor. A magnificent 7 goals from the Texan. And congratulations now to the winners of Showdown 54, the Adelaide Adelaide Football Club.
Just quickly, Josh, your votes?
I gave Walker 3, Crouch 2, Dawson 1.
I like it. I don't think there'll be any conjecture.
I'm hoping not. I'm hoping not.
And the only one that was probably stiff, and where do you put him, because those three played well, was Millera.
Yeah. Let's hear from Dawson.
We love you guys. We love playing here at Adelaide Oval. To Port, we love the way you play footy. We know it's always going to be a tough contest. To our boys, what a win. It's probably one of the best wins I've had. Let's just keep them rolling.
He's collecting trophies, Jordan Dawson.
Congratulations to both teams on a magnificent showdown. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the night.
As Adelaide walk away with the showdown shield, winners by 48 points. And just addressing that earlier story as well, the Bonds have withdrawn their claims against the Crows and the Power, so the trophy out there tonight, which is a great result, I think, for the showdown.
Well, for those that weren't aware, was what happened, what broke earlier this week, is that a lawyer on behalf of both Shane and Troy, one that played for Shane, played for Port, Troy played for Adelaide. It was that they were seeking compensation that their photo and their image was on the Variety Shield, which is a charity here for sick and unfortunate children, for the last 6 years, where they apparently didn't authorise it. So there was a case there, hence there was not meant to be a trophy there tonight for that particular reason. So it's absolutely probably ended up where it should have been, and maybe it shouldn't even made it to that particular point as well. So I think common sense prevailed.
And Jamo, you were pretty frustrated that it overshadowed this week.
Well, it was front page of the paper in the early part of the week, and I was just staggered that it actually, when I read the letter, because you were able to see the legal letter, there were some things that were blanked out, so you don't know what the detail was, but initially you just went, seriously, is that? So I was a little frustrated and yes, disappointed that I know Troy, I don't know Shane, but the fact that they were looking to sue either club, and that was the demand in the letter, that both clubs meet with the lawyer to have a discussion around compensation for what seemed to be quite trivial, and there was commentary in there going back, I think, to 2018 from Shane saying just how proud he was to be on the shield and the legacy that it would leave for his family and his children being able to see. So I think common sense has prevailed.
Thankfully, we've wrapped it up. The Crows have received the trophy and have won Showdown 54 by 48 points, with Taylor Walker, the Showdown medalist, for the first time in his 16-year career, heading on to 17 as well, Jamo, after signing on during the week. And I mentioned it during the call. I mean, he's 33 years of age, and he's probably playing his best football right now. If it wasn't for Charlie Curnow getting a chance to destroy the Eagles twice, which Tex will get to do in the final round as well, it'd be a very tight Coleman race right now.
Well, he's 6 behind now, so he has 61, and Charlie has 67, and Toby Green, who kicked, 4 or 5? I think 5-2 today. So he's on, I think, 54, I think it is. So it's really going to go down to, I guess, Taylor and also Charlie, who Carlton are in tremendous form just at the minute.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Did you mention who Adelaide's playing in the final round?
I did. The West Coast Eagles.
Yeah, away.
So add another 10 to his total, and then we'll see what that tallies.
Well, they've got the Gold Coast next week, and then it's going to be tough. Brisbane, I think it's here, then Sydney, and then West Coast. So still got an opportunity to finish off, and just you go back and you review the season right at this particular point. They should be they should be closer to 6th and 5th in terms of the games they could have and should have won. And they've left. I mean, there was 2 games where they were 6 goals up on 2 occasions and let slip and lost those.
Well, Gemma, we sat here last week after the Port Collingwood game. Adelaide were due to play Melbourne the following day, and we said you're a little bit worried about the result.
I thought we were going to get belted.
Yeah, a young side, and have they run out of legs? But the game they played last week against the Demons, again, outstanding. They potentially could have got over the line, and they backed it up again tonight, and on the probably the biggest stage.
So no, it's this. I mean, Matthew Nixon's coming on. There's been a lot of criticism as to where Adelaide are at and why haven't they gone further ahead in time. And he's in his 4th year, and it's taking some time. And now the list is being challenged through to, people that are available and key posts and positions, and a couple of players have come on. Again, Luke Nankervis has been good. Josh Worrells, starting to do the right thing. Probably if you're looking at what Adelaide need, they need some speed in the midfield to add to what they already have. And if Isaac Rankin, Josh Rochelle, again, you just don't know, because it just pushes out other players as to who would have been in the side tonight too. Whereas Port Adelaide, albeit Scott Lysett was a big loss, he's the number one ruckman. I don't know whether he would have made that significant difference, and I don't think there's anybody else that's injured for Port that's really coming back in.
Willie Rioli will come back into the side, but yeah, you're right. You talk about the Lysett omission today through being managed, and I guess the word, Aaron, is that his knee's very sore and he's trying to carry his knee. And interestingly enough, I had a conversation with someone today, and they were talking about ruckman. They're not that important. And the comment I actually made back is you actually don't understand how important they are until they're not playing. And we saw that tonight, how much difference it would have made having Lysett there. Potentially it gives the Port Adelaide midfielders a different mindset, changes the mindset of Adelaide. They can't be as aggressive at stoppage, who knows. But overall, fundamentally, Port Adelaide were beaten at their own game in terms of pressure. The key stats that matter, Adelaide were plus 18 at contested possessions, they were plus 13 in tackles, and they were plus 20 at half time. So absolutely obliterated Port Adelaide in the scramble and their ability to close time and space. They were plus 8 at clearances, and Granville gets another indicator of work rate and intent. They were plus 10 as well. So they torched Port Adelaide. And the alarming thing for Port Adelaide now is they've lost 3 in a row. 2 of those losses have game against Carlton, who they were expected to win tonight. You thought they were going to win, but the margin has blown out, and that's the concern moving forward. How much confidence and how much of a dent in their confidence that they've taken as a result of this, and can they bounce back? As they just said, they've got a tough run.
And there's no one really coming through underneath that is pressing to step up. In the SNFL game prior to this one, Adelaide 14-8-92 defeated Port Adelaide 2-goal 15-27. So a 65-point margin in the SNFL. Tom Jonas had 21. I think he did okay, so he was in defence. Riley Bonner played, saw a little bit of him. And I guess the selection on Vicentini would have been that Bryn Teakle was running around in the SNFL too, which they led with him after the mid-season draft last year and wanted to play him, but they went with Vicentini tonight. So, I don't think the list can get much better with what's to come.
And even to your point, I'm not sure when you made the comment through the call, Aaron, but get on the phone to Brodie Grundy, because the ruck stocks at Port Adelaide, they're young, and I guess what I will clarify by saying is that he's a young ruckman. They take time to develop, but get on the phone to Grundy.
Let's check in the Adelaide Crows rooms. Winners by 47 points. Liz Walsh.
Yes, here we are. Luke Nankervis has just led the team into the rooms here, carrying the trophy. This will be, obviously, his first win in a showdown. First win. Excellent for him. Unfortunately, Jordan Butts is still in the room. He has his right foot in a moon boot and he's walking on crutches, so that's really sad news for him. But the team now are all just getting together. Taylor Walker's the last one. He's just giving thumbs up to everyone, all the supporters here in the packed change rooms here. And they've got Mark Keane, Luke Nankervis all in the middle, surrounding the trophy. And here they go, about to sing the song. And there you have it, a very happy Adelaide rooms down here. We're hoping to be back talking to Rory Laird soon.
Their finals hopes well and truly alive, and we touched on it over the last couple of weeks. They just had to beat one of Melbourne, Port Adelaide tonight, or Brisbane at the Gabba, and they win all the games they were favoured to outside of that. So it's a little bit of, I guess, pressure relieved for the Crows. They still have to beat the Suns, they have to beat Sydney, they have to beat West Coast. That Brisbane game, even though it's going to be a really difficult task, isn't the end of the world now if all results go as planned with the favourites winning. There's obviously a lot of teams chasing for those final few spots, but we've seen some upsets across this weekend already, and I think Adelaide's in a good position that it's all there for them now. Beat the Suns, the Swans and the Eagles, and you're in.
Well, I think you just want to always leave your result in your own destiny, isn't it, too, as opposed to relying on others and where you're going to finish. I was just going to have a look at where Port Adelaide, if they fall away, like so Melbourne play tomorrow, they're currently on 12. If they go to 13, Port Adelaide potentially, subject to how they go. Like, I mean, it's if but what, but they're currently sitting second by one game. I mean, they could drop to fourth, and subject to the end, I haven't had a good look at the Giants as to where they sit after today's win. They sit on 11 wins. Like, you couldn't think Port Adelaide would drop out of the top four and go to fifth, would you? Like,
they'd have to lose every game.
Yeah. But like they got Geelong and GWS. You think those two will be tough, but Fremantle and Richmond, you'd think they'd win both of those. So,
but if they finish top two and you have a home qualifying final, it's no easy task. But Adelaide Oval is such a fortress to have a home quali and a home prelim. Port Adelaide would be eyeing off a grand final. And if Brisbane jumped them as a result of tonight, if Port Adelaide drop one more game on the run home in Brisbane, don't let them or held them accountable for that, Port Adelaide's going to have to go on the road in the first week, and all of a sudden, all their hard work comes undone.
And depending on how it all falls, the real disaster for whoever that is, if it is Port Adelaide, to meet Collingwood in a prelim at the MCG, that would be disastrous.
Possibly.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, they finish second, they win, you're in the granny. Yeah. You know, like it's 2 games at home and you're in a grand final.
I did these quickly, but I think they're right. So the way that the system works, as we know, it's weighted, and you've got the top 6 in a group and the middle 6, and that's how they work out the draws and that. But the vagaries of the way that the fixture has worked this year mean that Port Adelaide's had 10 matches against top 8 teams, 9 matches against the bottom 10. Adelaide's had 11 top 8 matchups and only 8 against the bottom 10. Considering where they finished last year, that probably shouldn't be the way it's worked out, if you know what I mean.
You can balance that out by saying the Crows get the Eagles twice, so that's enough to make.
But it's just that this is how the competition's become, isn't it? Like, you assess, obviously, we know about the fixturing and there's a problem there, and it's not everybody plays everybody, but from one year to the next, the improvement comes, and all of a sudden you find what you thought was an easier draw doesn't turn out that way. And certainly, I think we could say that if Adelaide earns a spot in the 8, they've well and truly deserved it on the way that things have shaped up this season. But they've still dropped matches that they could have, should have, maybe must have won.
Well, the teams that Port played twice have Western Bulldogs, and they've already done that twice. They played Essendon twice, they've played Collingwood twice, Adelaide twice, Geelong twice, and then Richmond twice. You know, like,
it's a tough draw.
I mean, the Geelong-Collingwood ones particularly, the showdown, you would say yes, but again, based on form, the last couple of years, you would have thought Port Adelaide, it would be more in their favour, but...
So just on Port Adelaide, 3 weeks ago, they're on a 13-game win streak, and everyone's saying, sign Hinkley now, considering, again, 13 weeks ago, it was untenable and everyone wanted to get rid of him. So the Port Adelaide is held firm now, and we'll wait and see till the end of the year what the call is. 3-game losing streak, you've lost 2 showdowns, so you've been swept for the year. There's going to be pressure again on the run home, and Port Adelaide still have time to make up for that and set themselves up for a top 2 finish. But they've had really impressive patches of the power, and then at times they're not living up to their potential. Like, we look at tonight, and Adelaide have no Rochelle, no Rankin, and arguably no backline. Mark Keane comes in for his second game and is their best defender. And Port Adelaide should have won this. They managed Scott Lycett. Travis Boak's the sub. And they lose a showdown that was theirs for the taking.
I think right now you've got to allow the season to unfold. I hear what you're saying, but they're on a monumental run, like to win 13.
But you don't think the pressure's there yet?
Oh, the pressure is absolutely there. I have no doubt, but I think you've part alluding to, like, Ken Hinkley, whether he should stay or whether he should go.
It's the fickle nature of the industry.
It highlights
we're saying get rid of him, sign him, and now they've had 3 losses, and you're right. I think we can't really know until we get to the end of the year. But Port are still in the top 2, but they're one of the most out-of-form top 8 sides right now.
I mean, having said that, even looking at Showdown 1 this year, the first Showdown this year, Port Adelaide came off the hiding against Collingwood. They got rolled against Adelaide by 6 goals, and I think the margin was pretty even at 3/4 time, so they got absolutely blown away in that last quarter. But that's when they went on their 13-game winning streak.
And they beat Sydney in a real tight one by 2 points late, and then away they went after that.
Yeah, so it's there. It's absolutely there, and I guess it's one of those things we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater in terms of what's happening at Port Adelaide, but the reality is, you talk about the pressure comes, the microscope, the blowtorch comes, they've got to get back on track pretty quickly and find that winning formula.
I'm not involved in the club. If I was to have to make that decision, I would be signing Ken Hinkley.
And I'm with you.
Yeah, I think he's been top 2 or top 4 majority of the year. We talk about the run. They're going to drop a couple of games. I think you're right. They have to get back on track.
Yeah.
But he's been able to do that with his selection of coaches. It would just take that pressure off, maybe just release the valve too and just get going, albeit I haven't heard much of it as a distraction. We go to Liz in the Adelaide rooms, triumphant.
Thanks, Rod. That's right, I'm here with Crows midfielder Rory Laird. Rory, that was an absolutely dominant, spectacular win tonight. No better way to snap a 3-game winning streak, surely, than over your biggest rivals. Can you put that match into words for us?
Not really. It was probably what we've been looking for and seeking for probably the last 2 or 3 weeks. You see a half against Melbourne, you see a half against Collingwood. Just to be able to do it for 4 quarters against a top 4 side and a really quality side in Port is really encouraging, and you can see what happens when we do that. We play that sort of dominant type of footy.
You've just come out of your team meeting. What was Matthew Nix's message to the group? He must have been really proud of that effort.
He was. He loved it. Obviously a huge rivalry here that puts a little bit extra on the showdowns, but just the fact that we're able to get the contest done, sort of halt what they wanted to do and stop them getting the ball outside, and they've got some quality midfielders that we had to try and curtail, and we felt we punished them the other way.
One of the big stories coming out of your club this week, Taylor Walker re-signing. He obviously comes out, kicks 7 goals and wins the showdown medal. It's just a remarkable story that just keeps going, doesn't it?
I'm not sure what he's doing. He's getting better as he's getting older. He was dominant tonight, unbelievable. He just keeps fronting up, and he seems to be getting smarter. It must be smarter because he's not getting quicker, I'll tell you that much, but he seems to know when to lead, where to lead, and he probably could have kicked 10 or 11 tonight, so I might tell him that.
Up in our box, Josh Franco gave Matt Crouch 2 votes tonight in the showdown medal. Another remarkable story for you guys. He's fought his way back into the side, second game, and he's really come out and performed tonight.
Yeah, mate, he looks unbelievable. Light on his feet, his contest work second to none. He's always had that. And he had a stack load of clearances tonight, got his first hands on it, got it out to, me and Dawson on the outside. So I think we've got a good balance in there. We've got some inside and outside players. You're able to get it to Dawson and Shoei on the outside, and then Matt and I can go to work inside. So you see tonight when we play like that, it works really well.
Let's head up to our experts and Rod Jamieson and Josh Franco.
Yeah, Rory, congrats and welcome back too. The start tonight was exceptional, not only from an attacking point of view, and you took it to the number 2 team in the competition, and the strength, which is the stoppages, the clearances, but defensively, the tackles in the first quarter was 21-14. It was just an exceptional start.
Yeah, we came out pretty hot, Rod. It was fantastic to see that we were switched on and ready to go, and it's sort of what I touched on before, just doing that for 4 quarters. Sometimes we give them a sniff in the first and we sort of got to fight back, and then it's spending all our tickets doing that, but to be able to do it and grind them down and then sort of break away, and that 4-quarter performance is exactly what we look for.
More broadly, I think if from a frustration, do you feel at times it felt like Adelaide was in total control of that game, particularly in the first half? The margin was 29 points. It should have been almost 10 goals. Do you feel that out on the ground too at half-time? Did you feel you were well in control?
Yeah, we felt we were getting looks out of stoppage and our opportunities to go forward. It's just that execution and polish going inside, and then our set shots, which are obviously been a bit of a bedbug for us this year. So, so we felt that we had the contest where we wanted, and the tackling pressure and the actual getting the ball forward. And you